All right, Kingkillers, we're covering chapters 27 through 32 in this episode. We discuss the Boys and Fela searching the archives for the schema for the gram, and the first spark in Sim and Fela's budding relationship. We see Kvothe panic when he thinks his lute was stolen, only to find out Denna had took it so she could get him an extravagant new case. Then we cover Kvothe going into the woods to test out his newly made gram with all his friends. You're also going to hear Tim sound like a complete idiot when he challenges my ethics. I'm going to describe a wonderful redemption arc for Ambrose and a fantastic ending for the books. And we're going to dive back into some more dating advice. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome back, you maniacal killers, to the most grisly, vicious, eviscerating killer broadcasts, Kingkiller podcast. I am Fitz, and I'm with, I guess, Dan the Gramless and Tim the Filthy Shim. What are you two guys doing here?
I just moseyed on in, huh?
I guess we're going to record an episode.
I just walked in. I don't know. Filthy Shim. I'll take that. That's all right.
It's a apt description.
Yeah. Well,
proper slander.
It's of worth. It's not a drab, right? Or is a shim less than a drab?
Yeah, I guess. Why? Is that a...
oh, no, shim is like
is that a term of slander towards a specific group, or is it towards, like, the currency? Like a dirty penny?
I thought it had something to do with, like a Three Stooges crossover from the book.
I think...
Shim. I think it's homaging the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's...
and how Shim was way worse than Curly. Because Curly was awesome. Shim was an idiot.
Curly Joe was the worst.
Yeah.
Shemp was the second.
Shemp.
He was the second to Shemp. Curly. Yeah, it was Shemp. Shemp.
Yeah, you got to make a modification if you're going to homage something. You can't just completely rip it
off. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want copyright issues.
Now that I think about it, yes, Shim, I believe, is a cheap bastard. If I remember right. He's a cheap son of a bitch.
Is that what it is?
Apt description.
I think not. I don't think anyone.
Every time you go to dinner with Tim, he's like, I forgot my wallet.
You know what? There is a friend of mine that would actually think of me that way, mainly because every time we hang out, I hang out with my wife, and I don't need my wallet. She carries around a purse, so I don't need a wallet. But then, we run to the store to go get alcohol. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't have my wallet. And it's funny because that one dude would think of it this way, would think of me that way, but I don't think any of the rest of my friends would think of me that way.
No, we
do.
You go. We all do.
Yeah, we all talk about it.
No. Yeah, and I kind of wish if that were the case, I'd probably have, would have had more money back in the day. Because I wouldn't be spending all my friends just raining, dollars over the top of your heads all the time. That's the way I remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Well, let's dig in, boys. Chapter 27 is called Pressure. At Anchors, the three friends eat, drink, and discuss the possibility of Ambrose's malfeasance and to plan the deep search of the archives. With Fela's help, the boys search the archives and spy on Ambrose, confirming their suspicions of his guilt. Gentlemen?
Yeah, so it starts off with Willem and Sim. He gives you the little update on them starting to wear down from having to stay up and watch Kvothe. So he's slowly but surely kind of building the pressure. Well, like the chapter states. I mean, that's what a large part of this is doing, is building that pressure and building towards the heist scene. in building the stakes up. He's really good about doing those kind of things, and like the big events is he just uses the chapters leading up to it to just kind of keep building and building and building the stakes. And so like it's like you don't get these big monumental battles and these like, saving the world stakes all the times, but on just the everyday confrontations at a school, he builds the stakes on those little confrontations and the fighting Fenton and those kind of things where they're smaller scale, but the stakes are built up in a similar way where it adds a lot of meat to them.
Yeah. This is all like really rich with just what it means. We get a very clear picture of malfeasance, and how you can literally use it against somebody, and then how do you defend against it when you don't know where it's coming from, and then even when you have an idea, what can you really do? It builds that out pretty thoroughly, and then all the effects it has, because it's affecting all of these people in such a way. But
and if someone's attacking you and your only defense is your own alar, you're extremely limited, because if you don't have people who also understand magic who can watch over you while you sleep, you're screwed. So if someone, it really builds up that if someone has a moment of you, they have your hair, they have your blood, they can do significant damage to you because you have to sleep at some point. And so you're completely relying on other people, and there's not a ton of people that have these skills in the world. He's just happens to be at a place where, there's an abundance of that. But if he was out in the world, if this was happening when he was, with the ADEM or when he was with the mayor, he'd be screwed.
Yeah. And it's crazy to consider, man. I mean, in our world, if someone's threatening you, physically trying to harm you, they have to be in your presence, other than like, screwing with your identity or something like that, right? But physically trying to harm you, they're in your presence, so you have defense. It's wild to consider someone be able to do things to you from, it's like voodoo, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. It's 100% voodoo.
They could essentially tear your head off. Like just broad daylight, your head just comes right off. If he was to tear the head off the Mamet, is that right? I mean, it's not just like a sense of pain.
If the link was good enough, and his alar was strong enough, yeah, you would think that that's a possibility for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably tear his arm off, like just, wait till he's walking down the street and then rip it right off.
Fucking
People
wild.
would freak the fuck out.
Well, I get the impression
it's
that
like
Ambrose isn't that skilled.
What's the Black Knight, where he's getting his arms cut off. Like, I'll bite your kneecaps off. I'll bite your ankles. What is that? The Holy Grail.
Yeah. He said, it's just a flesh wound. It's like, dude, you're bleeding everywhere. Yeah. What are you talking about?
It's one of the. That's a scene. Like as a kid, I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah. That shit cracked me up, man. That's pretty great. And part of this I was going to say that was kind of funny to me was when he brings up that, or they find out that he confronted Debbie by himself, and he's like, yeah, things got unpleasant, but now I know she wasn't responsible for the attacks. Like, it's a pretty big understatement putting it that way. It's like when people like to say, yes, not, it wasn't super chill, man. It wasn't chill. People like to use that word over and over again, like everything's chill, and then when it's not chill, it's not chill. It's like, dude, I don't know. It's just one of those terms
he's not me. He's not one to tell of his failed legendary moments.
Yeah.
Where like, I got beat down like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, well, she nearly crushed me to death if she wanted to. So I nearly got murdered. Yeah, it's no big deal. I mean, it
in this case
didn't go well. I was a little embarrassed. Yeah.
I tried my best to pin her down, and it just didn't work. Didn't work out for me. But I also too like when he talks about like why he needs to find the Graham on his own because, the sigildry involved, it's got runes for blood and bone and such. And he feels those are too dangerous to be taught to Relar. And Simon, looks at him and is like, well, what's, why would that be, when they start talking about like, why would that be a big deal? And, they point out like, you could do that stuff with sympathy, but with the sigildry, anybody could do it. And so you can pass over that ability to someone else where they could constantly attack you, even though they're not, a magician. They don't have, they don't know Alar, they don't know sigildry, they don't know magic at all, but they could still use magic against you with sigildry. So it brings in that added, element on why sigildry is different. It differentiates sigildry from sympathy and kind of shows some of the other practical purposes for it and what it's useful for as far as being able to transfer magical abilities to just like an average person and give them to them.
So that would be a really high priced item.
Should be, you would think.
Yeah, you would think. If you could literally like torture some dude to death and not be held accountable, man.
Yeah, and it seems like, it's pretty frowned upon, making these kind of things in the world. Yeah. So if you're going to take that risk to make one, you're going to want to get paid, fucking handsomely before you're going to be able to before you're willing to make one for someone.
Oh, is that where he's talking about the device where he could put a drop of a person's blood in, and then when he's done killing that guy, put another one in, go to the next guy?
Yeah, anyone could use it. They don't even need to understand magic in the slightest little bit, and they could use it over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's wild. Dude.
Yeah, it'd be an intense murder weapon, really, man. You could be a serial killer and be hundreds in a week.
Yeah, I mean, you would think like some of these items would run rampant in the world, and clearly that the penalties, for making those things are so significant that these magicians are hesitant to make these kind of things because they don't want everybody hunting them down to wipe them out. So as like self-preservation, they'd be hesitant to even make these kind of things, but still think, it would be an item that would exist in the world and would get used more often than what we've seen so far.
Well, that serial killer character we talked about, man, he would just crush it with this, but it would still be a problem because he wants the credit. Remember the guy we were talking about?
Yeah,
that the Chandrian
the Chandrian are
thunder.
Getting... Yeah, Chandrian keeps stealing the serial killer's thunder.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's using this, and then the Chandrian just keeps showing up. Somehow they know.
They're just swooping in?
Yeah, and they're just swooping in on it. It's just Great Alcenti every time, just strolling on in with his smoke.
Sidler, man.
Yeah, just sidling up like, yeah, see that? I did that. He just
make
points.
That dude carry around a pack of freaking Tic Tacs.
Tic Tacs.
Tic Tacs, yeah. Yeah, Tic Tacs, Tic Tacs, same thing. They'll both make noise.
No, they're like little clocks that you use to freshen your breath.
No, the app. I was talking about the app.
Oh, you just carry around the app?
So, yeah, like he's just got videos playing all day long in his pocket.
That was the alligator and Peter, or the crocodile and Peter Pan, too.
Yeah, there you go.
The clock, and that's how Captain Hook knew he was coming. It works. Yeah. Checks out, Dan. Nice work.
Death is haunting him.
Solved his sidling.
In this case, it's millennial chicks dancing that are haunting him.
Yeah.
Wherever else uses TikTok.
So what then, so he talks about Devi, and then they narrow it down to it's Ambrose. Once he once he tells him it's not Devi, he tells him it's got to be Ambrose, and that's where we get the piece where he's like, Ambrose wouldn't do it if he knew it was me. So clearly, he just doesn't know it's me.
Yeah,
he would turn me in if he knew, but he's still got to be the one because who else would be fucking doing this?
That's an interesting theory that this is one of those first read payoffs where, because like I know where this is going, on a read through. I know it's Ambrose, but you're like, but then you get there and you're like, oh, okay, there's this little nuance to it that he doesn't know who it is, so he's just torturing the person, which totally fits the character because he's a real son of a bitch. He's a real filthy shim, this Ambrose son of a bitch.
He is.
So you kind of, you piece that together, but yeah, that nuance gets lost on the reread. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see that come in because like, oh yeah, there's that little nuance to it where they don't know, but they get to it. At least that theory, which ends up being correct.
And you get
I
another.
also wondered if someone might have made that moment for him if he was working with someone else.
Well, I mean,
because it kind of acted like he's not very
like a moment is it's just a wax, just molding wax into a human form. Like, I mean, he could have got the blood was right outside of his rooms, so it wouldn't be. He wouldn't need to hire someone to make him a moment. He's perfectly capable of doing that himself.
Would
I just don't know why he would need someone to do it for him.
Is it Ambrose Alar that makes the connection though? I realize that it's Kvothe's blood and it's actually in the doll, but Ambrose has to have the connection using his own Alar for it to work. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and he does. He's not uncapable. He's a Relar. This is a guy that can do. He's got a strong enough Alar to where he can probably do multiple bindings and those kind of things. So he's plenty capable of doing this.
I guess my assumption
it's not even close to outside his reach.
I guess all along I've kind of, since we heard his poetry, I'm like, this guy's just an idiot, and maybe that his dad's paying for his way through whatever. It doesn't matter. He's definitely smart and capable. I mean, you don't work your way up to Relar without having capabilities. That's not an easy level to get to.
Dan loves Ambrose. You hear all these compliments he's paying
really
to him?
does.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he's a big fan.
Yeah, and then when you guys are gonna feel real bad about bad mouthing him when the third book comes out and you hear that slam poetry with him and Kvothe.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna shove your, slamming on his poetries. He's gonna slam poetry in your face.
They're the Eric B. and Rakim of the Aeolian.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, I almost forgot about that. That's great.
Then we get another great moment with Simon when he's like, we've got to go to the Masters with this. It's like, dude, again? Come on. Like you already had this conversation why he can't do it. And he's like, well, they might not. They wouldn't kick you out. It's like, yeah, they would. And Will points out the obvious, like, Ambrose is a powerful person, like there would be consequences for the university to whip him and kick him out. They're not getting away scot-free. So, they would definitely kick Kvothe out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was and it would not, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm with Will. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't, kick him out at all.
And up to this point, I'm fresh enough to remember that you don't really realize how powerful Ambrose. I mean, it comes up again and again, but for him to say, no, if they kick him out, he'll, his father will be pissed, and cause problems. But then when Ambrose gets his inheritance, it'll cause real problems for the university. Well, for someone to cause problems for a university, kind of just puts the reader in check as far as how powerful that family is.
Yeah, I mean, it really lays the picture to make it more clear, and we've seen this in terms of the things he'll do just to fuck over Kvothe. I mean, literally like buying an inn just to get it closed down, or buying an inn just to not have Kvothe play there. I mean, it's pretty fucking wild. But
yeah, he would definitely look for revenge. When he comes into his full power, as far as, becoming the main dude of his family, the head of his family, yeah, this is a guy that would look to enact revenge against anybody he feels that slighted him. If there's any kind of, if his dad is holding him back in any way, then he would be fully unleashed at that point, and there'd be nothing to hold him back.
Yeah, it's funny too. Yeah, what like you said with Sim, where it's just like he revisits the same thing. He's like, you can't be serious, man. He can't get away with this, and it's like, dude, like you're missing again. You're missing what we've already talked about, that we can't let this out like that. The cool thing that comes out of that is Will does make it very clear that he's Hem's favorite. That how much trouble the Jackus family can make for the university with something like this happening. And then Sim mentions Bear Trap. So then you get that which is really cool for a reread payoff where you're like, Kvothe gets that. And it's real quick. He just mentions a bear trap. Oh, that's exactly what I need. And then they're just like laughing. And he's like, I'm serious. Where can I get a bear trap? So he's going off on this other tangent in his mind, which we know is for the arrow catch. They don't know what the hell he's talking about,
Yeah, the arrow. I mean, the bear trap and the crossbow. I mean, we're thinking like, what the heck is he planning?
Yeah,
if you're going through the first time, I mean, you're hearing he's acquiring weapons and traps and stuff. Like, what is he planning to do to Ambrose?
Yeah,
and then it's like he doesn't use any of those things, and then then you find out later what was actually going on. But yeah, it's a nice little touch where he adds this stuff in during the planning, to find out who's attacking him and to stop it. He adds it in there, and but yeah, it's for a completely different purpose than what you would think. I also like that Sim is like, I told you to leave Ambrose alone from the very beginning. It's like, okay, yeah, but since then, you've been like, oh, sing, jackass. Like, he can't be any, his feathers can't be ruffled any more than they already have. Like, might as well fucking get another few jabs in. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like you don't get you've been egging shit on for, after you were like, leave him alone in the very beginning. But since then, you've been egging him on.
Yeah. And Sim's also, you never seen that. You don't see this side of Sim very often, but when it comes to Ambrose, this seething hatred that he has, where he's like, starts licking his lips about whipping him if he was allowed to be the one to do it. And anyway,
he said he'd pay 10 talents to see him whipped, and it's like, oh, you were just like 2 sentences ago, you were just saying like, let's turn him in so that the masters whip him, and then you're like, I told you to leave him alone. Like, you're telling him to do something that would get him whipped and expelled from the university. You don't think there's going to be blowback from that?
Yeah, he clearly doesn't think these things through. And it's funny what Fitz mentions too. He's very innocent, and then but when it comes to Ambrose, he's like, fuck this dude. He's like, I want to see him like tortured, which is really interesting, and it tells you how much Sim really despises this dude. That somebody as like innocent and nice as Sim goes that far, where like he just really fucking hates him, and he deserves it. Ambrose is a piece of shit. Although Dan's a big fan, but yeah, everybody else agrees that he's a piece of shit.
He's got his upsides. I mean, it's the potential that I like. It's the potential and where it's going to go.
That hat and his poetry. You like his pentameter?
Yeah, he's got that dope ass plume in his hat. Walking around like fucking Kramer.
Think he's fair and reasonable with women, Dan? Is that it?
He just needs a cane and a cool, pimp duster.
That's one thing I can't picture a rapper that wore a plume. That's what we need.
It's Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Hey, ass man.
He had the pimp hat. He had Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat jacket.
Yeah,
which was a pimp ass coat.
Yeah, that's what Ambrose needs. Get him one of those, and it's on from there. He's gonna be a superhero after that point.
I like the little touch we get also where he's splurging. He's going to splurge on coffee. Or what was it? Or something like he can't splurge on coffee. Something like that when he brings in. It's like those little reminders are pretty
he's
big.
talking about like, he needed to, because he needed to be able to stay awake. He had to. He was forced into a position where even though he couldn't really afford it, he had to, because the risk is death. Like he had that part where he's like, I fell asleep in one of my classes, and then when he had that moment where his head nodded and it woke him up, and he realized, man, he could have killed me in that moment.
Yeah, that's intense. That's really intense. And they have coffee, just like we have coffee. Maybe they poop too.
No, there's no evidence for that. Don't even start throwing in that unless you're going to bring evidence. Not just allowing pure speculation on this. That's a huge theory. Got to come correct.
Well, and then they do. Yeah. They basically verify or get validation that Ambrose is the one doing it. I kind of like it where it's like they're following him. It's like, oh, he dips out. Then Kvothe feels like a prickling or something. Ambrose goes back to his apartment or whatever, and then his shoulders are getting pinched or some pressure and stuff like that. So basically, just piecing it together that every time Ambrose goes somewhere, he's just torturing this dude.
Yeah, and I like the added touch where it's like, I felt the pressure between my shoulders, which told me he was, trying to stab me. And then I felt a quick succession of jabs in a personal area, which cracks me up. Like that's 100% like it's funny just to picture him like holding his wax doll and just like jabbing it in the crotch over and over again.
So I'm thinking about this. Like I remember in a couple
lucky
chapters,
he didn't start with the old crotch jabs from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if he'd be wondering, did I catch something?
Yeah. Well, he's a virgin still at this point, so.
Yeah, I know, but geez, man, be like, what did I possibly catch where I have a concentration in my prick of like. I was thinking about, remember Jamie Lannister?
That would be confirmation that there are bathrooms, that there are toilet seats. If he's
catching it from a toilet seat like we did,
an STD as a virgin, it's like, what toilet seat did I sit on that's causing my balls to erupt in bloody pain?
My mind went to the same place. What's wrong with us?
Yeah, it's like it must have been that time where, like, I sat down on the toilet seat without the thing down and dipped my nuggets into that water. Caught an STD.
Dip my nuggets into that water. How far are you dipping down?
I said he didn't put the toilet seat down.
Oh, got it. I didn't catch that part.
He sat, he didn't look, he sat, splashed the nuggets in the water, and, got his STD.
I wanted to bring up a point though. So Ambrose is a sick person. This goes on. I remember in a few chapters they're talking, and it's like Sim and Willem haven't taken a night off in two span, which would be 3 weeks, and then after that, like the attacks still continue even after he gets his gram. So this guy for like a month, every time he goes home, he's like, all right, you asshole, I'm going to shove this pencil up your ass. Like, what kind of person goes home, all their free time is just, trying to torture someone?
This dude. That's who he is. That's who he is, man. It makes sense. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just literally torturing this guy, I guess, until he dies. Right?
Look, I'm not saying like that the redemption arc is not going to be difficult. He can come back from this,
man. Yeah, it's pretty rough. This guy is a scumbag.
But that is it for me on that chapter.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, chapter 28 is titled Kindling. So, under sporadic attacks from Ambrose, Kvothe loses his first sympathy match. Then, after 9 days of scouring the archives, the group of friends finally find a book with the schema for the gram. Meanwhile, Fela falls in love with Sim. Sim helps Kvothe decipher the schema, and Kvothe begins his work on the gram and continues his work on a secret project. Chapter 29 is titled Stolen. So as Will and Sim continue to babysit Kvothe, Kvothe returns to Anchors one night and quickly realizes his lute has been abducted and is probably being probed by aliens. No, I made that last part up. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I like this part because this is, where you see it's not just that Kvothe is extremely talented and he's just good at everything. He also has to work hard to become as good as he is at everything. And there's circumstances that happen to him that cause him to even go further and work even harder and push even further to reach the heights that he's able to reach. It's not just given to him. This guy has to work for it. So like he's getting attacked by Ambrose constantly. So he has to keep this alar up, and he's doing it for a month. He's not sleeping. He's struggling. He's in a constant battle for his life for almost a solid month. And through that, constantly holding up his alar, he's stretching his powers to lengths that he was not capable of before, and he wouldn't have been capable of without this happening. These attacks pushed him to new heights. And so I like those aspects of it, and why he's, becomes as good as he is at things. It's not just given to him. He earns his skills. He's obviously extraordinary. He's extremely talented in many areas, but he also works his ass off. And in, certain situations, he's put in a position where the circumstances that he has to fight through also strengthen him and push him to new heights. I think it's a good way to do it. It's a good way to introduce this, where he's not just leveling up for no reason. It's not just like I do this for, 3 weeks go by and then I go to another level, then another 3 weeks go by and then another level. No, there's reasons he's pushing himself.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine the complications. What Alxadal's used to doing is someone who's as good as Kvothe start having two people go against him. Well, he doesn't just have two people going against him. He has someone else trying to kill him on top of it through this whole period. So then he's got those things happening, and he's exhausted because he's having to do it all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's a great way to build that muscle that he's developing. That, and he's a Mary Sue, clearly. So
yeah. That's another one of those things that unless you're like, some people they'll define that, Mary Sue is just someone who's good at a lot of things. And it's like, okay, well, you're describing like 90% of the characters in fantasy.
Yeah, exceptional characters.
I mean, you're describing almost every protagonist. And so like your definition is meaningless. It's, a huge aspect of the Mary Sue is not only are they really good at a lot of things, they don't have to work at it, and it seems like every conflict that comes up, they already possess the skills to overcome that conflict. There's never having to be like a training to get better and better at things. They're already in possession of those skills, and when things come up, they're like, boom, I can already do all this thing and this thing and this thing, and that solves this problem. They're already capable.
He wouldn't lose this. He wouldn't have lost to Devi, and he wouldn't lose this.
No.
Right?
No, there wouldn't be that struggle. The struggle is not there for Mary Sue. And obviously there's degrees where it's like, okay, maybe, a character has some flaws. Maybe they have to train at a couple of things. So maybe they're not a perfect example of a Mary Sue, but they're very close. I get there's degrees to these things. But Kvothe is so far apart. Like he's got so many flaws. He has to struggle at so many different things to become skilled at them. It takes him so long to become, very proficient in many things. A lot of the things he does, he becomes good at them, but not proficient. Like he's not very, very good. He's not top level, type of person at them. And so he just doesn't fit unless your definition is just overly broad, where now you're wrapping up pretty much everybody. But
I was going to say, I don't think there are degrees. If you're going to use the term, it seems like it's not open for nuance. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I think, you could say someone's closer or further away.
Okay. I mean, fair enough, but the whole point, as far as I know, of the term is that it's so extreme that it's unrealistic.
Yeah, it's like Superman,
and you
don't have anything
worse.
Nobody can mess with it.
Kryptonite, though.
It's worse. He does have flaws.
It's true,
and
his personality sucks, right?
Some people like to try to say like, well, you could still be a Mary Sue. It could still be a good character, and it's like, hold on, like, do you even know where the term came from? It was the whole point of the term was to mock shit writing. It was fiction, Star Wars fan fiction, where they were just mocking the shit out of bad writing for female characters. And it's not a term that doesn't have a negative connotation. It's an extremely negative connotation.
That's what I mean. You're describing a flat character.
If your own definition is not a negative connotation, the reason you're getting pushback is everybody else sees it as a negative term.
Yeah, so there's confusion with the term. That's what I'm saying. So if you're describing a flat character, yet, say, Kvothe, we already sort of killed it, but he has too much struggle. He wouldn't have all the struggle if he was a fucking Mary Sue. So yeah, it's a misuse of a term, which again makes it problematic to even use the term.
I don't know, guys. It's more of a vibe for me, really.
yeah.
Hey, I wanted to bring something up. So, as far as those acquired skills go in Kvothe's practicing, something that we've talked about, but I don't want to be overlooked, is again, Kvothe and his friends, but specifically Kvothe, busting their ass in the archives, learning that archives inside and out. I think that these skills are going to, we've talked about it, and I think it because of how extensively we've kind of put forth the case that this could be the doors of stone and where everything's going to lead to. I have to think that the knowledge that they're picking up, the things that they're realizing about these archives, they're some of the most knowledgeable people in the university about, where things are, because they're really every few chapters they're busting their asses in there, especially Kvothe, once again into the nooks and crannies of the place, trying to find specific things.
I think where you're going there, yeah, I think there's forbidden knowledge in there. There's things because they get access to things that it seems like should have been pruned. Well, especially here, right? That's not supposed to be available. They're not supposed to get this information. So it seems like it's extraordinarily difficult, and Rothfuss does a great job of showing this is not just something you stumble on. It takes a ton of work by a whole bunch of people, and they spend a lot of time pruning. And these are people with experience, Will has a lot of experience in there, as does Sim, as does Fela, and they take it very serious in terms of, pruning through or going through the archives to find things. So it's not none of this is easy at all. And it builds to the possibility of what we've heard, which is, what was it from Dan's favorite storyteller, Old Cobb.
M. Night?
Yeah. From old Cobby Cobb, old corny pants, that there is that he finds some secret thing in a book, and that's how he opens the doors of stone and finds, King Koopa, jumps on his head a few times. I don't know how far he takes it, but, that's in there.
Sure. I would be surprised if what Old Cobb is not referring to when he mentions that, if it's not the book that Ari has that she wants to give him, that she's like, he's not ready for yet. I would be surprised if it's not that book that they talk about in Slow Regard of Silent
What book is
Things.
That? Is there anything else given? I don't remember that, Dan. Is there anything else clues-wise that they give about that book?
No, we brought it up in a previous episode, but it just talks about like it's an uncut book, like, so there's like pages that are put together that have never been open. This is a book that's not been read, and she talks about it in the respect of he's not ready for it, and but someday she's going to give him this book. It's going to come up. and there's clearly got to be some kind of important information in this book. It's mentioned prominently in Slow Regard.
Is it the one with the Siri Day written on the side, their slogan, or
no? I mean, there is mention of Siri Day, but there is those are two separate things. There's nothing. I'm telling you, there's nothing to figure out about the book. It's just a book that's going to come up, and I think that what Old Cobb is talking about, I would be surprised if it's not the same thing.
I like the idea that he's faced with a mission of sorts. He has to find a book, and it's the first book he finds. It's super easy. He goes to the shelf, pulls it off. He's like, fuck, look at this. Didn't have to do barely anything this time. Who would have thought?
I hope the book that Ari gives him
and puts his finger down.
Is a pop-up book, and he just like completely dismisses it, but it's all the answers. It's got all the answers, book. but it's a super children's book, and it just pulls back, and you'd be surprised what you find in children's book, and it's a fucking like pop-up book with all the answers in it. She's like, look, it's uncut. You like open it up, and you can pull this lever, and it makes the change reading guy dance around.
Yeah, I love it. That'd be great.
Kvothe is doing a connect the dots, and all of a sudden a gram's in his hand, and he's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like
this works for me now.
It's like there's tic-tac-toe pages and word searches and little puzzles. Yeah. It's like a Sudoku. There's a Sudoku section.
It's all the answers. He dismisses it for like years. He just like tosses it away like stupid book. She's like, no, seriously, just go through. Like here's my crayons. Just go through
crayons.
Fill out the book. In order to find out the name of the wind, you just got to play Hangman a couple of times. Find out the name of the wind, name of fire.
Yeah, that's probably how he's gonna. He discovers like all of their exact true names is he starts playing Hangman, and he just when he puts in the lines, he just figures it out himself. Like he's just such a good namer that he's like, oh, that person's name it's 8 letters. He's like, start guessing letters. H, nope, that's not in it.
This is another great cross-promotion opportunity for old Patty, man. You can release these, and everybody gets their own books, and they get to do the word searches and the Sudokus and everything.
The workbooks to go along with the stories.
Yeah, man.
I like it.
I love it.
He should have like 3 chapters of Kvothe playing Hangman by himself. With like, he splits his mind into 2 pieces and just plays Hangman with himself.
He's like head, body, leg.
He starts figuring out he figures out Ambrose's true name and him and all the masters, just playing Hangman for like 3 chapters.
Yeah, I played. I used to get grounded a lot as a kid. I played Monopoly once with myself as 4 different people, and I had all different personalities. Like one guy was super risky, another guy was super conservative. I like embodied the actual emotions.
Tim had one personality that he really wanted to win, so he like subconsciously sabotaged the other people.
Yeah, cheated. Yeah, one of them's a big cheater.
He's like robbing the bank and trying to secretly do it, like doing it real low key, like passing it under the table.
Actually, I hated that. There was always one dude in the group that always cheated, always would rob from the bank. Fucking jerk.
I had 100%. If I could get away with cheating, I would cheat all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. That's you.
Playing euchre, which the game, that card game that they play in this, it sounds like euchre.
Corners?
The card game with the spades and stuff.
Corners.
Yeah. And so, corners, like it sounds like euchre. But when we and Rothfuss is from Wisconsin, so I guarantee
that's a Midwest game. Well, I mean, you also have like spades. There's a few games that are like euchre, hand and foot, somewhat similar.
I had a friend, that I played. We would play euchre together against people, and we had so many hand signals. Like we could tell each other exactly what cards that we had in each other's hands. And no one ever caught us. No one ever caught on. They couldn't figure out how we'd
for
win.
Money?
Every now and again the cards go against you and there's nothing you can do. But 90% of the time we would win, and they could not figure out what we were doing. We were cheating.
Dan.
No, I was going to
hard.
say, Dan,
Were you guys playing for
that's
money?
wrong.
Do what?
No, I don't care. To me, I mean, who cares?
No, I care.
But my
I'm
question
saying
is,
you can't do that.
Did
It's
it matter?
Wrong. It's wrong. It's unethical. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I don't do unethical things, so it's clearly not unethical. I don't know what you're talking about.
My question, Dan,
It doesn't make any sense. You're not making any sense right now. You sound real stupid.
What?
You sound
even
real,
your
real
choices,
stupid right now.
So even in your
You
choices,
sound like
you're
a
infallible.
big dumb idiot. This is going out to millions of people, and you're sounding like a real big dumb idiot right now.
Dan, I want to know this. Did you play for money? Because I want to know if it mattered or if it was just for your own. Like, was there money on the line?
Nah, we were in like high school. We didn't have any money.
No money on the line. So you just did it because you're an asshole.
Just to win.
You didn't even need the money.
I win. That's what I do. I win.
No, Fitz, you got it. You nailed it. You nailed it.
If you'd have done it for money, like my family was starving, there's no such thing as ethics when my family's starving. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a little much. He's playing euchre for his. Like, come on. It's a fun game though. People that don't know euchre.
Ethics
it's a fun game.
Ethics is.
I always pretend to when I play poker at casinos, play Texas Hold'em. I always pretend that I'm very drunk.
Yeah,
loosens everybody up. Loosens everybody up. I can, you get the right table, you can go in there, win like $500 in like 30 minutes, and then leave. And then they see you like, oh, this guy was fucking faking the whole fucking time.
So he's not just an asshole. He's also a cheater that steals money.
Yeah, I like to win.
At all costs.
Yeah, then Fela comes up with the book. We get a great fucking line I mentioned. But yeah, she's like, brings the book, and then they find out it's written in Eldvintic, and he's like, do any of you read Eldvintic? And Sim says he can. And they ask him where, and he's like, I never cared for poetry, I said. You're lost, Sim said absently as he turned a few pages. Eldvintic poetry is thunderous, pounds at you. Shit thumps, man. Shit.
Yeah, I like that.
I thought it did thump too, because it's full of great alliteration, and it was right up my alley.
Yeah, I was hearing when I heard it, I was feeling like some definite Wu-Tang. Felt like maybe ODB. I was hearing.
Look
Triumph.
at Sim just, and look at Sim just freestyling it too.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Well, this is pretty great. This whole stuff right here with Sim and Fela. It's super. I mean, this is like Rothfuss, in my opinion. This is like Rothfuss at his best in terms of how he reveals the situationally, because we've led into it where Fela or Kvothe says to Fela, like, you're underestimating Sim. Everybody does that, and then now she sees him for who he like actually is. And yeah, of course, it's cheesy. He does it through poetry, right? But he's complimenting Fela in a way without trying to like do it super aggressively. Plus, like Dan said, man, shit thumps. It's fucking This dude is fucking killing it. He is the ODB of Eldvintic, right?
Well, look, I mean, we've only seen Ambrose solo and then versus Sim. We haven't seen the duet yet, so we can't really like put Sim up too high yet. Wait until you see. Wait until you see what they bring. That shit's gonna thump. That shit's gonna thump hard.
Jesus. So wait, so is Ambrose in the boy band with Kvothe, Sim, and Will?
No, Kvothe's got two groups. He's kind of one of those artists where it's like, the boy group, the boy band, they really need Kvothe, but he's starting to branch out and do his own things, kind of find his own voice. He's about to Beyonce the boys.
Beyonce.
Well, they're probably going to like do like a stomp the yard kind of thing and go up against each other, and Kvothe's going to have to decide which side he's really on and where his true loyalties lie.
I'm thinking he's kind of like a Method Man, right? So he's had a solo career, then he's in the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
And then
it's exactly like Method Man.
And then
he's
Method
got
Man,
the
Red
Wu-Tang,
Man.
Method Man, and Red Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
Ambrose is
See
Red
that.
Man.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. That's
There you
Then
go.
he's
exactly
going to
it.
start dating Wendy
The
Williams.
bricks. The Brits. That's
He's
what it
going to
is.
date Wendy Williams. Is that right?
Does he dated Wendy Williams?
Method Man's dating Wendy Williams now.
Why? There's better Williamses out there, man. Venus,
Better
Serena.
Wendy's. Get a JVC, man.
Oh, Reggie Noble. You're welcome.
But we also get another mention of Puppet,
Oh yes.
and so they keep building to him. He's coming up. He's coming up not too long from now,
Okay.
probably in a couple
so-
episodes. But they keep laying the groundwork for him. They kind of build. This is a character he really builds him up.
Well, I
So,
should
hey, you
say,
guys-
I think. Sorry, I think
ahead,
we
Tim.
should at least mention, because I think it's really impressive to me where Simon does his little his triumph there, his ibomatomically Socrates philosophies hypotheses. He does his little poem, right, and then he's like whatever, that sort of thing, and then so I'm just going to quote, I saw Fela turn her head to look at Simon almost as if she were surprised to see him sitting there. It was almost as if up to that point he'd just been occupying space around her like a piece of furniture. But this time when she looked at him, she took all of him in. And he describes him, she actually saw him. And like the way he describes it, man, like the way that Kvothe describes it, as if in that moment he's seeing the Fela fall in love with Sim. Like the way he literally describes it is fucking great, man. It's pretty tremendous. And so I wanted to.
Yeah,
mention
he's got an amazing way with words. I mean, his prose is top level. Like there's just not guys that are like, well, that guy's way better than Rothfuss at prose. No, that's not the case.
I don't think, and that's something that, and maybe I'm just not in the right threads, but I don't think that gets mentioned enough, because people talk about. It seems like with fantasy, there's a lot. One of the things I do have to admit, I was reluctant to even read fantasy because I don't know, it didn't appeal to me on certain levels. But the amount of things that can be done with physics and action sequences, because you don't have the barriers of our world, and you play with the barriers of our world and the expectations of our world, it's phenomenal. And yes, Rothfuss is doing that with sympathy, and Sanderson does it his way, and some of these other writers do it their way. But yeah, the level with his prose is top notch, and that's part of what I think appealed to me. One of the first things, same thing with like George R.R. Martin, is that literally just their writing is quality shit. As someone who likes to read literature, and I've read past writers and but not a lot of fantasy, what appealed to me personally is just that the writing is on such a great level. Then you have all the world building, and you have so many other things, and that's why I think. That's what bothers me when people just, well, whatever. I mean, everybody's got their own taste and all, but when someone just says about Rothfuss, like, well, he hasn't wrote the third book, the biggest critiques are like that, and then saying something like Kvothe Mary Sue. It's just ridiculous, man. Like, you're not appreciating the nuance of what else is being achieved within the book,
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly in any category, you're going to have people that are extremely talented. I think one of the things that attracts me to fantasy, though, is that you have talented writers like Rothfuss, is top notch with prose. Martin is one of the best with dialogue that I've ever read, and
even
the
internal
conversations that he has, and what's that?
Like internal dialogue, like Tyrion, man, like how the characters are thinking things out and playing it out in their own mind. Tyrion's one of my favorite characters I've ever read.
And,
of anything.
And the back and forths. I mean, the dialogue between characters. It's extremely well written.
Yeah.
And so you have like top-notch writers, but then you also put them in a position where there's no limitations. And now obviously you have to create limitations into your story, but they start with no limitations. So they can build whatever world they want, and then they can build whatever limitations they want. And so they're completely left to their imagination. So when you combine like a guy that is a really good writer, and you untether him from anything that prevents his imagination from running wild. It just, when you find those really good writers and they went to fantasy, it works. I mean, the books are phenomenal when you find a really good writer in fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, the shit thumps.
Yeah, fucking thumps so hard
on many levels.
I want to bring you guys back to Puppet for a second because I don't really remember any significance. I remember him being talked about earlier, and you guys talk about him how, I don't know, you guys bring him up like he does something significant.
Do you remember
I can't remember.
He does a puppet show. He does the puppet show for him.
Do you remember that chapter?
There's significance into that. Well, obviously we'll go into it when we get to it, but
Will
there's
you remind me?
significance to the puppet show. Yeah.
It's just
I'm for sure
tremendous.
going to talk about it.
It's so great. Talk about like prose. I mean, it's so rare that how do I even describe like what he, and we'll get to it, so we don't have to do it now. But what I remember is just like it was one of the most fun things I've like ever read. Like it's like literally what he's doing. He's acting out as he's doing it, and he's playing to other people, and he's like pulling Kvothe in and revealing to Kvothe what's happening in his mind. Fucking dude, it's tremendous, man. It's like I'm surprised you don't remember. And part of that is they build into, and part of that is also they build him up as this sort of legendary character, and then that's sort of all you get. And I think that's probably a big part. I know Dan's mentioned
it's very memorable in the same way that Ari and Elodin are memorable. They're just very different and eccentric characters.
Well, and what's so interesting about Puppet is that like that's why so many people are like, he has to play a bigger part. And maybe Rothfuss maybe originally wanted to do that, or maybe he just liked the character, and maybe he'll just leave it at what it is, which is still amazing. But yeah, it's kind of strange to have all this legend about it, and then there's not a whole heck of a lot of significance that does literally tie back to him, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting character, man, for sure.
As they started talking about him, I was like, oh man, I'm like, Tim and Dan talk about Puppet. What is it about Puppet? And in my head, I think of this scene from Bob's Burgers where they do a puppet show, and I'm like, well, that's dumb. That's just a puppet show. That's not what it is. So, but
it's a
actually,
puppet show.
It is. Yeah. Okay. So that's,
well, you know what's funny?
It does ring the bells. And now that you say it about the, and it might just be because we've talked about that show that it's ringing bells for me now. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I just
It's funny you say we talk about him. We talk about him about as much as Will and Sim do. Like it kind of has the same representation as what's in the books, and which would make sense because he doesn't loom that large. But that chapter is just so great, and it's such an interesting character, and I think it almost to a degree it makes it even more interesting that it's just that representation, that it's not more, because you know it's almost like when artists die at 27, it's like they peaked, they never fell, right? They didn't have that period of you know the decline. So it's, I mean, that's kind of a weird analogy or a comparison, but you know that's morbid, the thing with Puppet. Tim, like morbid. Well, he leaves on a high note, man. He George Costanza's the shit. He fucking has a great chapter, and then boom, see ya. And then you know he's just chilling in the archives. That's it for me. Yeah, exactly.
I'm out.
He just drops Jerk Store and gets out of there, man.
Yeah. You're their all-time bestseller.
I love it. He just keeps getting served.
But it ends with him talking about he goes and starts to work on the gram, but he has to wait until Ambrose is in class or occupied before he can do it. And it also mentions that he was able to work on his project as well, and the project was giving him a good excuse to spend so much time there. And it starts to layer out another aspect of the heist that's coming up. He starts spending time at the Golden Pony, needing to establish himself as a regular customer there. Things would seem less suspicious that way. So he starts setting the scene for the heist that's getting ready to come up.
One of the things I did like was when they're working together. It's kind of a cool thing that the group, pretty much everybody in the group has their own skill set that gets applied. Like to where Sim's reading it because he's the one that can read Elventic, and then he's like, so he's giving that value. And then, does this diagram make any sense to you? It's perfect nonsense to me. And then Kvothe, those are the runes. And then clear as day, metallurgical symbols. So it's like I like that element where it's like they're all just piecing it together. Fela found the book. Simon's reading it. Kvothe's making sense out of the runes. Teamwork, man.
Yeah, he does a like I like the whole aspect of the heist from front to back. It's an interesting part of the book.
I was more talking
very
about
entertaining.
I was more talking about just this page or this
yeah, no,
this
I know,
part right here.
I know. I'm just saying, like, yeah, that's why I like this. Front to back, the whole heist is because of all the small details are really good. But that's it for 28, 29. I don't really have a lot to say, but
not really. I mean, he looks like a crazy person as he comes in, goes back.
Did you already do the intro to 29?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the only thing I had, he goes to Anchors and finds that his lute's missing and is in full blown panic mode.
I like that he checks the same place more than once. It's the kind of thing you do. I mean, at least I've done, where you're just like, this is fucking dumb, but you look again, even though you already looked in one place. You look in places where it wouldn't be, but you're just like, well, I don't know what the fuck else to do. What am I going to do? What else am I going to do?
I read this chapter, and when he's asking the girl if she'd seen his lute,
shit.
And in my mind, I started singing, "Have you checked your butthole? Skeet up, beat up, butthole."
I knew you were going there, man.
Oh man, great.
Whatever that dude's
Tom
name
Cardy.
is.
Tom Cardy. Looked up.
Google it.
Look that up if you haven't heard it before. Have you checked your butthole? Tom Cardy.
It's Tom
Cardy. Legendary song.
Yeah, the song is HYCYB, and it's fantastic. Yeah. And yeah, Tom Cardy, CARDY. It's dude. It's so
all his stuff's funny, man.
Saw it once, and then I watched it weeks in a row. It's just so funny to me, and
I sing the end of that song like the. Maybe this is the reason that I got no close friends. Fucking worth it, baby.
Oh yeah,
so great.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great, and people watch it and be like, "Wow, you guys are immature," but it's fantastic.
But if you guys are 30 episodes deep with us and you haven't figured this out yet, I don't know what the hell you've been paying attention to.
That's a good point.
Hey, I've got I kind of came to something this week, guys. So with this chapter starting it off, I'll go ahead and mention it, but Kvothe getting his loot stolen, and there's a lot of different things that he says about what it means to him to have that loot gone and to have the music taken from him, about how he falls apart, he's the glue, and there's a lot of I'd have to go back through it, and I haven't picked it apart to actually pick it out, but if you read it again, this chapter and then like the next two, just the next one, as he doesn't have the loot, it made me start thinking about the Waystone Inn having no music and what that means to Kvothe. I don't know.
Broken.
I don't know where I'm going with it, but yeah, it's the reason, the fact that another thing that I picked up was when he is the little girl from Traben that has the dream about the pot. So she asks him when he says that he's going to go play music and she can find him at Anchors. She's like, "Is it magic music?" Now I know that we've talked about that. I'm kind of throwing things out because even in the next chapter, as Elodin brings up the things that they can't. This is my schizophrenia here, but as he brings up in the chapter about the things that they can't explain, and he very first says to Kvothe, "You should have mentioned music as one of these things that they can't explain." And I thought again that this is one of those chapters where Rothfuss is trying to bring something to light, or at least it's kind of like a perfect way of him telling us there's more to this chapter specifically, and in the midst of him not having his lute and being completely beside himself. I thought that maybe there was a link there of what Rothfuss was trying to tell us. And I know I'm just kind of vomiting different things right now, but that's where my mind's at.
We find out.
Yeah, I mean, like
next...
it definitely emphasizes how significant the loss of his lute is to him, and that obviously plays into his time, as Kvothe at the bar. The fact that he doesn't have his music the loss of his lute here, adds significance to the lack of music at the Waystone Inn for sure.
Yeah, it's the straw that broke the back, right? I mean, he states it pretty clearly. Like, it is the glue that holds him together, and without it, he's basically done for. I mean, that's maybe strong, but yeah, and it shows also Kvothe. He's broken. He's a broken individual. He's not all together, and it also seems like he's punishing himself. It's not like he can't play music. I mean, he could still string a fucking thing, right? I mean, you would think he can still play "Mary Had a Little Fucking Lamb" or something on a lute.
He's got money. He could buy a lute, so it's not a lack of
himself.
Instrument that's preventing him. It could be that he's lost his ability to play it like he used to. Like it could be that something's different about him where he can't. That's why he couldn't.
I guess it could be
the ADEM fighting or things along those lines. Maybe he's locked. He's done something to change himself at a fundamental level that is preventing him from doing sympathy, fighting, music, that kind of thing. I don't know. I guess we've obviously talked about it a ton, but yeah, I mean, obviously the lack of the how hard he takes the lack of music and how emphasized it is, obviously it plays towards his lack of music at the bar now.
Following that line of thought, there's a couple things. It could be he's punishing himself, but it could also be he can't play like he once did. Therefore, trying to play is more hurtful. It hurts to remember. We get a little bit of that. Where it's like he thinks I'm going to tell this fucking story, and it's like, this is going to be fun for me. No, this fucking story is going to fucking kill me to tell it. But he's going to tell it because, Chronicler holds him hostage with it. But yeah, it seems like it's got to be an amalgamation of all of that, I would imagine, that he doesn't have the skill that he once had or the magic that he once had. And maybe part of it is he just needs to get it out of him or go back to that state. But yeah, there's definitely something else going on, though, in the maybe it's in the thrice locked box. Something's in that Waystone Inn. It represents some sort of holding him down and not allowing him to be who he was or who he's been capable of being throughout the story. And music's a big part of it.
We've talked about this theory, I guess you want to say, but my mind went back to he can't. So somehow or other, the Chandrian at least knew that Arladin, Kvothe's dad was singing about them. We've speculated on, the fact that either their names, but also maybe the singing has some kind of magic to it. So I was thinking maybe Kvothe can't do magic at the Waystone Inn, can't sing because it's magic. Anyway, I don't know where we're at. I just know that that's the vibes that these chapters gave me. Is like I was immediately thinking about him and Ari and him at the Waystone Inn. I don't know where that leaves us except to move on to chapter 30.
Yeah, that was it. That's all I got for 29.
Yeah.
All right, then. This chapter, 30, was pretty short and uninteresting, titled More Than Salt. No, I'm kidding. It was neither of those. In this chapter, Eladin, if you allow it, will you guys allow it?
No.
Eladin.
No, it's we say Eladin. Rothfuss says it wrong.
Yeah.
Elodin attempts to explain the unexplainable. Despite Kvothe's titty twisting, the teacher demonstrates Kvothe's impatience by posing he and Fela romantically and proposing that Kvothe is blowing it by getting too grabby. After class, Kvothe anxiously returns to Anchors, and then Imre thereafter, having learned of a letter from Denna, he eventually finds Denna, who is crying. The two soothe one another. Then Denna leads Kvothe to where she is prepared a surprise present. A stylish and elegant, master artisan, handcrafted, brand new lute case with a cool secret compartment. Kvothe likes it, but cries, which totally turns Denna off, and then Denna cries. Kvothe laughs at her and kidnaps her for the afternoon before returning to university. Guys?
Yeah, so we get the Tim's favorite line that he's mentioned a ton. We get that great one in this chapter. And I like I just like the way he does these chapters with Elodin's classes, where it's always like starting off and Kvothe is just like, oh God, dude's wasting our time again. Yeah. Never gets it.
Yeah, so his
never
attitude
understands what he's doing.
His attitude's totally in the way of him learning anything, And
it's today we will talk about things that cannot be talked about. Specifically, we will discuss why things cannot be discussed. I sighed and set down my pencil.
So this is one of those sighs that I think about, like Peter Griffin. He's like,
Jesus.
He does have that.
I love this.
He reminds us here, like with the coffee, he's like, yeah, he brings his paper every day, his much, prized paper that he can't waste. And he just like puts his pencil down like, yeah, I guess I'm not going to fucking write anything.
Yeah, and you get every day some part of me expected Elodin to laugh and admit he'd just been testing our resolve with his endless nonsense. And every day I was disappointed. Just completely does not get it. And this is one of the few times where Elodin is more explicit about what he's trying to do. He uses a fantastic, hilarious example that he probably shouldn't have done it in that way. It's great for us, but as far as trying to get Kvothe to understand what he's trying to do, and he went about it in the wrong way.
Yes,
see, but immediately he mentions the music, which kind of lends to what you said, Dan, about how maybe Elodin can actually see what Kvothe's thinking. I love the philosophical nature of this chapter, or this lesson, I should say. But also I like how he speaks directly to Kvothe. He actually, it seems like, maybe even changes the lesson plan to demonstrate to Kvothe what Kvothe is actually doing, not even just like what he's trying to portray, which is the that which can't be explained, but he can explain to Kvothe what he's doing and changes his lesson, and basically like, hey Kvothe, you're fucking up, you're getting in the way of what I'm trying to teach you.
Yeah, I think he does a good job of explaining how difficult his task is, his job is. And Uresh says some dumbass shit that doesn't make any sense. He's like, name something that can't be explained. And he pointed at Uresh. Go. I love that. Go. But Uresh considered for a moment humor. If you explain a joke, it isn't a joke. What a dumb, stupid point.
I was going to
say
that
really was the only thing that I thought.
We have established that the best way to land a joke is to tell the joke and then explain it. Or sometimes it's even better to explain the joke before you tell it. Explain what you're about to do, why it's funny, and then tell the joke so that people can go into it and they know when to laugh.
Explain again after. Explain the finer points after.
The more you explain the joke, the better the joke is. This is what a dumb idiot Uresh is.
Well, and by the way, that approach is a very, very wise defense mechanism as well, because when people don't laugh, then you get to make fun of them. Be like, I even told you,
stupid.
You idiot.
I told you when to laugh. You're so dumb. You're so dumb.
You should have laughed. You should have laughed at that part. You fucking missed it. And just, walk off the stage. You killed it.
I do
and
like
just
that
walk off like, I killed it. Those guys suck.
Yeah.
That audience is terrible. I'm so good.
I like Fenton's answer too, when he's like naming, and he's like, that's a cheap answer, Relar. He's like, but you do, whatever.
You correctly anticipate the theme of my lecture.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll let it slide.
Yeah, so like, but that's that's one of those where it's like when the teacher is kind of dancing around it, and everybody's already knows what he's dancing around. It's like, let's just stop dancing. Like we know what we knew what you were getting at, from the beginning. Other than Kvothe, everybody else seemed to have got the point.
Well, it's interesting too that Kvothe, sort of in his arrogance, which this is exactly how it plays out, is that he should have. They use music, obviously, but what's sort of interesting about that, if Kvothe was more open, then he could have said music, and they could have sort of gone back and forth with it. Now it just goes to prove Elodin's point anyway, because when Kvothe tries, he's admitting to us, and again, great writing. We know he's not confident in what he's trying to say to Elodin. He's not confident in his points. Well, I guess we can get to it instead of me jumping ahead like that. But it's it's great. The whole lesson in itself, like Fitz was saying before, what Dan was saying, like it's maybe this isn't the best way for him to reach Kvothe, but it's such a great payoff for us because it's literally on so many ways it's explaining why this is hard for Elodin in the first place. Why not everybody does this shit? There's like 12 people in the class, and most don't show up anyway. So
it does a really good job too of explaining one of Kvothe's biggest flaws and just his arrogance, like the fact that he's like nothing, anything can be explained. Anything can be explained. It's like, man, you already had that example with the blue. I mean, he's already demonstrated this point to Kvothe, and he's coming back at it again, and Kvothe is still being just super stubborn. Anything could be explained. It's like, okay, well, explain music. And he's like, without using music. And like, and I get Kvothe's point when he's like, well, that's a stupid limitation. Why are you putting, limitations in it? And it's like, yeah, but that's kind of the point, is that it's so subtle that you have to talk about it in terms of like analogies, and it's not something that you can just pin down. It's like you just vibe it. You got to vibe it.
Well, and Kvothe even
it's more a vibe
contradicts himself. When he does say music, he's like he explains music in that he says music explains itself. Well, it's the notes. But it's also the notes on the rows, and then there's
he says it's the road, and it is the map that shows the road. It is both together, and,
and then
that's what I'm talking about. Like that's such a that's not pinning something down. That's like you're talking around the subject.
Yeah, it's a representation.
I'm saying he's like yeah.
Well, there's a feeling you get listening to music. I mean, everybody who's ever listened to music can understand that and feel that. You can't really explain it. I mean, there's a harmony that happens within fucking jam sessions that just evolves, and you can't explain that through words. But
explain why New Kids on the Block, is the greatest group of all time. Like, it's hard to pin down exactly what makes them the best. It's just, you just know it. You know it when you see it and you hear it.
Yeah.
It's like clear.
Wow. What a terrible example.
You're just being real dumb. You're coming off real dumb in this episode. It's going to be an embarrassing one for you.
It also makes it very interesting that Kvothe has his backup on this. Like, he's like, hold on a moment, we're not done, because he just moves on. He's like, okay, explain love, or I guess Fela says, love is another example, and Kvothe's like, no, come back, we're not done. I don't know if I can explain music without using it, but that's beside the point. That's not an explanation; it's translation. I fucking love Elodin's reaction is, yes. That's it exactly. That's what the fuck we're talking about. Translation. All explicit knowledge is translated knowledge, and all translation is imperfect. And rather than like going down that road, Kvothe just jumps to, so all explicit knowledge is imperfect. You know, and then challenges him.
It's very reminiscent of his discussions with the mayor on, like, you know, power. Specifically his discussion with the mayor about power, granted versus, you know, inherited power, or whatever the two were. Like, you know, power that you have.
It is
versus
similar to that. Yeah.
Power that's given to you.
Yeah, it is similar to that. Yeah, you're right.
And he does a great job of demonstrating his, you know, the problem he is having with Kvothe in this class, what Kvothe is missing. When, you know, and he's going through, he's like, you know, there's something ephemeral in the air. She loves the lines of him. She is curious about the shape of his mouth. Kvothe looks at her, and for the first time he understands the impulse that first drove men to paint, to sculpt, to sing. There exists between them something tenuous and delicate, that they could both feel it, like static in the air, faint as frost. He looked me full in the face, his dark eyes serious. Now what do? First, our young lovers can try to express what they feel. They can try to play the half-heard song their hearts are singing. This is the path of the honest fool. It will go badly. This thing between you is too tremulous for talk. It is the spark so faint that even the most careful breath might snuff it out. That reminds me of, like, the person who, you know, you're kind of getting to know, and then they just, like, come out with the, you know, either, you know, I'm coming out of a rough relationship, or, you know, they drop something too serious, you know, too truthful, too serious, where it's just like, too soon.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things there. One is, yes, what you said, but also it kind of feels like something, not to say it's inaccurate, but it kind of feels like something written by someone who has had a lot of trouble talking to women. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, this is kind of like your cop out of like, well, look, man, I just, you know, I don't want to ruin this thing we have between us, and I don't know how to start a conversation. So, you know what I'm saying?
I agree, though. I agree. Like, I mean, even, you know, in my own kind of courting of women, it was always, a lot of the times it was, you know, you start asking questions. Like, one of the big ones, like going up to a girl, and, you know, you're like, hey, you know, I got a buddy that it's, or either I got a buddy, it's his birthday coming up, or I got a birthday coming up, like trying to figure out what we could do. What's like your favorite birthday idea? Like, if you could have the perfect birthday, what would it be? Trying to get some, like, ideas, and then
all those hats,
get them to answer that
those
kind of question,
and those horns,
and then throw just like a simple question like that. You
asking
just, me? You know, hats, whistles,
pizza, like pizza and cake. And
no, that's a good one.
But,
yeah,
like,
it's very non-confrontational. It's not personal, but it is still personal. It's good. That's a good one.
It gets them talking, gets them saying some things, and then like from there they say da 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 da, and then you respond, you know, like, oh, that's interesting, and then you jump off of that, and then all of a sudden a conversation starts. But you don't come in with the like, hey, I think you're extremely attractive, and I would like to date you.
Yeah, it's too much.
Like, you don't open that way. You got to kind of dance around it a little bit. They know, she knows full well why you're going up and talking to her.
Yeah.
But you're dancing around the subject. You're being a little bit subtle. You start to build something, see if there's something there, see if there's some kind of interest. And there is a little bit of a dance to it.
It's a great way to get a good feel of who the person is in terms of how she reacts, what she says, what she comes out with, and it gives you a heck of a lot more to then talk about in response to what she's saying. And there's a whole lot of places to go with a subject like that, because you can talk about things you've done, or talk about things that would be fun, or more likely you're going to go off of what she's saying, which it's that's good. So
I'm going to I want to back up just a little bit and say, and agree with you, Tim, because even aside from, like, you know, like initial pitches and ways to get girls talking and starting conversations. So if you're starting to, you've done all that, you've met a girl and you're feeling, good with her and having, like, I'm in agreement with Rothfuss here when, and maybe you can say that I'm not that great with women or whatever, but by the time you've courted her and you get to a point where you get to a point where it's not true, audience. It's not true at all. But you get to a point where, you've actually become friends with this woman, not tried to lie to her and goad her on like Dan to get her in bed.
Who's lying?
It's not a game to manipulate a girl into bed. It's a game to start a conversation and then to grow something from there.
No, but my point was, I'm in agreement with Rothfuss because I'm going to say that by the time, or Alodin, because by the time, if you're into a girl and you're wanting to start something up with her, there's definitely a line that you can cross in trying to take that step, and you have to flirt with it. You have to see where they're at. And it's not something spoken. It's not something that you can even goad them or whisper sweet nothings, as like Tim likes to say, into her ear.
You just don't come out and just say the honest truth. Like you have to skirt the line. You have to build something. You have to start from a safer distance. You can't just go up to if you just go up to girls and like, hey, I think you're pretty. Want to go on a date with me? Well, you're going to fucking fail. You're going to fail hard. Might be the honest truth. And you might be like, well, man, I wish I could just say exactly what I want. And it's like, well, okay, but that's not how shit works.
No, it's what's brilliant's too strong a word, but why it's such a good approach is you're just two people talking about something. That's all you're trying to do is get a conversation going, in which case it's somewhat impersonal yet still personal. And you're finding
it's just a matter of like, here's a conversation starter. Now let's see if there's something there. And then if there is, great. If there's not, move on.
And to be perfectly blunt, the best course is you keep asking questions because people want to talk about themselves. And the more they talk about themselves, the more they're like, I like this guy. Because they're just talking about themselves, man.
He lets me
and
talk.
You're just looking at him like, wow, yeah. You're smiling and nodding and like, yeah, oh, yeah. And with your eyes, and then get a little nonverbal, find some way to get a touch in there, and you're on the right path, man.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. It's the same thing in sales. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just you're trying to get someone, to open up and start talking, find some commonality, so that then you can have like an actual conversation. But you can't just jump in and come straight at somebody. It just does not work in any aspect of life. It's a rare case. Here was just be super blunt and it work.
One of Fitz's favorites was, I'm going to guess your weight. Let me pick you up. That was one of his favorites.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
No, hey, so okay, let me kind of bring it to what I'm trying to say. Let's say, once you're past all that, let's say you've been dating a woman for a while and she's got, that there's something that she's not talking about and you want her to open up and talk about that. Okay. So at that point, when there's definitely a fine line that if you, as a salesman mentality, are like, I want to know this information. I'm going to use my tactics to get it out of her. You could explode this. You could completely blow the whole thing up.
Yeah. So you got to be.
But no, what I'm talking about is in the first
phase.
Time you meet someone. I'm not talking about if you're dating someone and you can't be honest with them, then no, get the fuck out of that. You got to get out. Like, I mean, you have to be able to be honest.
Yeah, but you can be honest and still not want to blow up a situation.
I would say there's two things there. One,
Yeah,
if you
there's
can't
always
if you can't be
delicacies on
if you can't be
how you
yourself, can't
approach
be
people.
honest, there could not be a future there. But what you can also do is open up yourself. You open up, they feel comfortable, they eventually open up. I mean, that's kind of how it works. And if you got to walk on eggshells,
it's very complex.
For a long
I mean,
time,
that's why I
then fuck
agree.
that
Like
noise.
our relationships and from the beginning to end are complex dances, and yes, you want honesty, but it's more complex than that. And so, like, that's why I 100% agree with what Rothfuss is saying there, or what Olodin is saying there. Is it? You know, it's the honest fool. You are a fool if you think just, you know, you walk around with blunt honesty all the time, and you know that works. It's not how humans work. No. Sorry.
You could have the same essentially the same conversation about music, because I think we've kind of displayed that it's unspoken stuff that does kind of rule relationships, and in Olodin's opinion, knowledge and translation therein of that knowledge. So I love this. I love this lesson. I thought this was great.
And he picked such a great example. He's right. If instead they were talking about music and Kvothe could step back and consider the analogy and apply music, it's nuance, bro. It's not just hitting notes. He knows that. He talked about it when he saw Fela, or when he saw Denna play the harp. He's like, there's something that it's timing is what it came down to. It's that melodic timing that someone just naturally has, where they can move someone with music, rather than I'm playing A sharp, then B minor, and then switch back. It's not that. It's, someone can do that, and they can be on stage in front of people and be like, wow, that guy knows how to play fucking Wish You Were Here. Well, it doesn't fucking translate if you're trying to move somebody in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not karaoke. There's time for that, but what he's trying to get at is, I mean, fuck, man, again, falling back to what he's trying to teach you is something that is extraordinarily rare for people to be able to grasp. So stop thinking this is fucking calculus, bro. And that's where he goes at him. I love that he's like, and then then there's the third path,
bro.
The path of Kvothe.
Brosif.
Yeah, bro.
But yeah, I mean, he nails it. I think with the second path, I think, you know, that's obviously what we're talking about, is the second path that he mentions. You know, it's more careful. Although he talks about, you know, you talk small things, the weather. Like the first example is like, oh my God, dude, if you're talking about the weather, like I'm running. Like if you're like, you know, like I hear constantly out here, like, oh, it's a hot one today. Yeah. Are you sure? It's July.
All right.
It's 95 with 100% humidity. Yeah, it's a hot one every day. What are you talking about? Get away from me.
That immediately reminds me of Dennis when he moves to the suburbs with Matt.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a neighbor.
It's a hot one today. It's a hot one today.
he just loses his fucking mind.
I feel that so much out here. Oh, man. Dude,
he's standing
so many
there.
People say that. It's like, are you really? Did you just say it's a hot one today?
So what you do is you peel off the shirt, stand there in front of them shirtless, staring them down.
Yeah, unless you're being ironic.
If
you say it like and you're being ironic, then I'll tolerate it. If you're being serious, telling me it's a hot one today, then no, me and you, nope, we're not gonna be friends.
So you can't acknowledge heat around Dan. No acknowledging of temperature.
No.
Don't tell him it's hot. Don't tell him it's cold.
Don't point out the. Don't point out 2 + 2 = 4 to me. I don't need you to point those things out. This is just wasted words.
Being an HVAC technician, Dan, what if I bring up the finer points of enthalpy and entropy and humidity, things like that? Like I really get into.
Yeah, that's another fun one when people tell you about the intricacies of their work that you are not involved in at all. Like their day-to-day,
how it relates
their
to
day-to-day
you and your
work problems. Like, oh man, you don't understand this form I got to fill out every day, and like the boss asked for it at 3:00, and then it takes me like 20 minutes to. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. No one cares.
Well,
I don't work with you, man. I don't even know what you're talking about.
You know what's funny is you're describing the thing the thing that annoys them the most about their job.
Yeah.
You got to hear about this. I hate this so much. Nah, I'm good. You just leave that. I love when people want to tell you about traffic.
As much as it annoys you to do
in.
that, it's 10 times worse to hear about it. Trust me.
No, dude, when someone's
with
going
no context.
I love when people passionately go into, oh, dude, you should have seen it. I was coming out of the gas station. This car, there's like 2 lanes over. So I'm here and I'm going to the left lane. And they're like, dude, shut the fuck. I'm not there. I don't give a shit. I've driven in traffic. I've been there. It sucks. You want me to relive your traffic thing that you were involved in? What the fuck are you talking about?
I like you guys.
Yeah.
I like you guys because you guys. I oftentimes think, man, these people are bad at social, and it's most people, just very bad at social interaction.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't engage.
I'm okay
most
with
of the
people
time.
being bad at it. I'm just like, it's just when people are uncomfortable with not saying anything, so they just start fucking saying nothing.
Yes.
But they just need words coming out of their mouth, and it's like, man, I'm comfortable not saying anything. I just let you know, like, we don't even have to say a word. I'm comfortable with the silence.
I am the person, and perhaps it's more awkward. It probably is. I will stay in an elevator. I don't give a shit. I will stand silently for 45 minutes. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't need to talk to you. I mean, all right, so maybe that's an exaggeration. But those awkward moments, I will always stay silent. I don't need to say things. I don't need to be like, well, you're going to go? Am I going to go? You're going to go? Like, you don't need to crack a fucking joke.
I'm not a big small talk person. Like,
I like to get people out of it.
I don't like empty conversations.
I like to get people out of their uncomfort, you know? Not that you would be uncomfortable, but those people who are uncomfortable, I like to, jazz things up. And
I think I
want to talk about the weather.
I think I want to I want to
get
stew
some
in
hobbies
the
and
discomfort.
interests that are worth talking about. Like, man, stop talking to me about how hot it is outside.
I bathe in the discomfort of the moment. That's where I thrive.
I
feed on the discomfort.
Here's the thing you run in. Here's the problem you run into with me. If you're gonna bring in some like bullshit about the weather, you're gonna see real quick that I am not interested in talking about this. So if you were uncomfortable before, you're going to be very uncomfortable when you try to initiate some boring shit.
I got a good one.
Nothing out of me.
I got a good one for you, Dan. Next time, go, nope. Terrible material. Boo.
Boo. I need to start introducing start booing people when they start saying something you're not interested in. Boo.
Treat
Next,
everyone.
Change of subject.
Treat everyone that talks to you like you're supposed to be entertained. Like you're paying
Change
them
the subject. This is not interesting to me.
The fucking hubris with you guys, man. Good Lord. You fucking jerks.
No, like in a humble way, though. Like humble about it. I'm humble about it.
Look, no offense. Boo. Boo. You need to work on your pickup lines. That was terrible.
Hey, I don't mean to say anything bad about you or pretend that I'm better than you, but boo.
Good stuff.
No, I think that's implied. That's implied.
Yeah, the people who like small talk are we've lost all them right now. They're like, oh, these guys are assholes.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, these assholes don't realize how hot it is.
Hey, you know what? If I lose all the small talk and I lose all the small talk people, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, those numbers just keep dwindling down.
Yeah, but then you get then there's the third path, the path of Kvothe. He strode to stand shoulder to shoulder with me, face and Fela. You sensed something between you, something wonderful and delicate. He gave a romantic, lovelorn sigh, and because you desire certainty in all things, you decide to force the issue. You take the shortest route. Simplest is best, you think. Alone extended his own hands and made wild, grasping motions in Fela's direction. So you reach out and you grab this young woman's breasts. So great. Relax,
so
both.
great.
He said seriously, I'm trying to wake your sleeping mind to the subtle language the world is whispering. I'm trying to seduce you into understanding. I'm trying to teach you. He leaned forward until his face was almost touching mine. Quit grabbing at my tits.
Dumb, man. So great.
Classic.
It really is.
And then
Classic
it ends
Ellen.
with another one of the deadpan humor. I left a Loden's class in a foul mood. Like after that.
Well, and then he does go into what Fitz was talking about. It was the loss of my lute that had done it. Everything else I'd been able to take in stride. The stinging burn across my chest, ache in the knees, lack of sleep, persistent fear of the Alar slipping. He'd been coping with it all. My desperate poverty, frustration with Loden's class, even the undertow of anxiety that came from Devi. But it's the loss of the lute that was too much. It wasn't just that I needed to earn my room and board. It wasn't just that lute was the linchpin, blah, blah, blah. It's just the music itself is his coping mechanism. It's the glue that holds him together. And, only 2 days without it, I was falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, it lays it on thick which again, that makes the fact that there is no music in the end stand out that much more. I mean, like when he loses the music in Traben, the first time you go through it, it might be confusing at this point because you're like, well, why wasn't he like this in Traben? But then when you start to realize, like, okay, there was something different. He had locked himself behind some doors.
Yeah,
he wasn't the same person. So, like, because even when he snapped to, he's like, has it really been, almost 3 years since I've had my lute? Yeah. Like, he even realized.
Is that the first thing he said, really?
Yeah, that's one of the first things that pops in his mind. He's like, he starts remembering things, and like one of the first things he says is like, man, has it really been all these years since I've had my lute? And so that's the difference. He had locked himself away, and that's why he was able to motor through without it. Like, and even in Traben, like when he hears music, he pulls away from it. When he gets beat up by that guard, and he goes and gets the blanket, the food from those girls at the bar. He hears music drifting out of there, and he tries to pull away. He tries to pull away from the music that's coming out of the bar because it was too painful to hear. But he's not thinking about it the same way he's thinking about it here when he's himself. So that's why it stands out so much. Is it makes the bar scene again. It just makes his time as Kvothe, very similar to his time as Kvothe in Traben. They're
Tarbean.
Very, very, or Tarbean. I'm sorry, yeah. Tarbean. Yeah, very, very similar.
Yeah, and it tells you how it does also delineate or points out how severe that being locked behind the doors really are, because he just does. It's not just that he doesn't think about it, doesn't realize it. When there's a chance that it could seep in, he fucking runs. It's like his hand in fire. It's a defense mechanism. He takes off because he can't afford remembering. He can't afford to be pulled out, and then he gets fully pulled out just suddenly by Scarpy. So. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
There is no situation like in the moment right now. If he had lost his lute, but he also had the money that he has as Kvothe, he's buying a lute that same day.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's not going out and buying a lute immediately shows you that there's something very much different with Kvothe than Kvothe, because and you could say, okay, yeah, he's making the sacrifice because he doesn't want someone to, see him playing music and then associate that with Kvothe. But nah, this guy would buy a lute and just play it in his room by himself when no one's around. Mm-hmm. He would build a room in his bar that's soundproof just so he could go and play his music.
Yeah, and that's why, again, it makes me think he's punishing himself, or it's that fear of remembering. Like he can't put himself back there to remember what his life was like. Something real bad happens. I mean, obviously we know that, and we can just continue to speculate what it could be, but it's bad stuff. It's the boy band, man. The boy band hits it big. They have some real good hits, and then he loses it.
A fall from grace is gonna be tough, man. But the soaring back to the tops again at the end, that's gonna be the payoff. You gotta have that rise and fall, but But when you get that second rise, that's when you really, you end on a super high note.
Yeah. That's what we're going for. I was going to say, what's interesting here again, Anchor's a really nice dude. He sees Kvothe looking all pitiful and brings him a double rasher of bacon with his soup and a short beer besides. So, I mean, just that even little reminder, like he's struggling all this stuff, but he does have people supporting him, helping him,
Yeah, he's a good dude, and he's obviously not an idiot. He understands what Kvothe provides him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, having one of the baddest musicians in the world playing at your hole in the wall fucking bar, he's not an idiot. He's got to see like, oh shit, I got a gold mine on my hands.
Yeah, but also he's despite the trouble it could cause, he's always had Kvothe's back and looks after him. Looks after him enough to worry about him, or at least inquire when Kvothe's having a hard time.
Yeah, and he took him on when Ambrose is threatening him, and so I mean it's not riskless for him. I mean he's he's a good dude, but it's a very he probably wouldn't be, he'd be less of a good dude if Kvothe wasn't filling his bar, because of his music. But then he gets the letter from Denna. And then he heads across to Emre and starts looking for her. And he's, can't find her anywhere. And then, like always, once he kind of gives up hope that he's not going to be able to find her, he turns around and then he sees her. He's like, I worried she might have left town entirely while I was occupied. She could be gone for months. She could be gone forever. Then I turned a corner and I saw her sitting in a small public garden under a tree. She had a letter in one hand and a half-eaten pear in the other. Where had she come by a pear so late in the season? I was halfway across the garden before I realized she was crying. So this always stands out to me. She's got a note. She's reading it. It's making her cry. She's got a pear that's, out of season. It's not like, they got semis running fruit across their world. Is probably pretty difficult to transport fruit from one spot to another. So if something's out of season, that's going to be, a big deal. And so it's going to stand out. And so the fact that she's got a pear shows that it's probably from somewhere where the climate is different currently. It seems like they're moving into winter. And so it's obviously probably coming from a warmer climate. So it's probably a good distance off. And it's also important to note that after she gets this note, shortly later, she leaves Emery and she goes to Yill. And she starts, in the letter that she sends Kvothe after she leaves, she says that she went to Yill and the weather is warmer. And she talks about how she's learning more about the harp. She's staying with a guy who can teach her more about the harp. And then we get, after he runs into her again, we start seeing the Yillish knots in her hair. And so one of the things that it makes me consider is does the note have something to do with the fact that, she's clearly got some kind of agenda. She's trying to accomplish something. And so the fact she's reading this note, is it from her family and they're telling her about the hard times and she's crying about that. She wants to fix these problems, but she's not capable yet. Or is it something entirely different? But I think it's got to be something to do with what her agenda is. That's this letter making her cry. So, and the fact that she goes to Yill after this, it makes me think maybe Master Ash maybe he orchestrated the letter, and it was to move her to, start singing her song. Like, here, like he orchestrates this letter to her. She gets it. She's crying. Then he comes into her life again and like, hey, remember that secret magic? Maybe that secret magic can solve your problems. We need to go to Yill. But if I'm going to teach you the secret magic, I need you to start doing research for me and start writing this song that I want written. So maybe there's some like quid pro quo where he maneuvers her through this to get her to, to write that song. Because the fact that she goes to Yale, it's warmer, and she learns she starts using the Yiddish knots a lot after this. Like she starts learning how to play the song and play the harp, and then she starts writing the song from this. These are clearly clues, and I'm obviously speculating significantly on this stuff, but I'm not sure what else kind of things it could be if it doesn't have to do with Master Ash and the song and the magic and whatever her agenda is.
Does she ever mention that Master Ash has a hand in the song about Lanray?
Yeah, he definitely does.
Other than just,
he's been helping her with the research. Yeah, that's explicitly said.
The research. Yeah,
she's writing the song for him. He's the one.
She's writing the song for him.
He's commissioning the song. It was his idea. So he's obviously, he has an agenda, and so that's kind of how I piece it together on what the possibility could be. Obviously, that's just very much speculation. Could be any number of things. I mean, the fruit being out of season could be just, it's from the Fae. We speculate that Master Ash is probably able to travel through the Greystone, so maybe he's getting this fruit from the Fae, and that's why it's out of season. But
or like you said, Dan,
the only way I've come up with to kind of tie all the things together is the way I said.
Or it's possible, like you said, that he's ducking in and out of the Fae, but also using the Waystones as, maybe he's ducking into one Waystone and then popping back out in Yale. And then jumping back into the Fae and back out with a new pair out of season.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. I mean, the pair, it's either got to be from somewhere far off, and it's something to do with her agenda, or it's got to be something to do with her patron and going into the Fae. There's an outside chance it could be that she's when she gets off her shift at Jack in the Box, she swings by a pear tree and snatches one out before she goes, back to Emery. Outside chance that's the case, but I'm not sure. I don't know. We haven't really fleshed out whether there's pear trees, on her walking route from work.
Yeah, and
or it
also
could be that the pear is canned.
Is it Anjou? Is it a Bosque? Yeah. Is it a can of pears that she just sips out of the can? She's just pulling them out and slurping them up. Although they did he does say a pear. He does say a pear.
Yeah, and she just tosses the remains of the pear. There's no mention of a canned pear.
I also thought
obviously,
it could have been
the preference.
Could have been like some shoes or glasses or boxer shorts. It could have been a pair of anything,
Well, it is spelled P-E-A-R.
Well, you're listening to the book. There's spelling in actual books that differentiate between words that
he could just
sound the same.
Well, and a little nudge towards those boxer shorts. That's all.
Well, and then also she had a letter in one hand and a half-eaten pear in the other. Usually when people say half-eaten pear, they don't mean half-eaten pair of boxer shorts.
Huh.
Or glasses.
You're hanging out with the wrong crowd, man.
Or half-eaten pair of shoes. Just
you're
working away through that
wrong
pair.
Kind of women.
Look, you guys forget that this is a world.
You haven't heard of edible boxer shorts?
It's only limited by Rothfuss's imagination.
Mr. Missionary Position 10, never experimenting.
Really weird choice by Rothfuss to
maybe a pair of twins. Do you ever eat a pair of twins?
Well, so again, let's go back to it would have to be P-A-R rather than P-E-A-R. All right. So there's also that part of it.
I like the. Have you ever seen in the League? Did either of you guys watch that with Rafi?
No.
For the audience, I'm talking about the scene where he eats the he's having a diabetic seizure, and he needs the sugar, and the girl's got edible panties on her, and she goes to give it to him, and he's like, no, put them on. That's the best way for to ingest them.
That's really important.
Yeah, it's a hilarious scene. So Rafi's a legendary character in TV history.
That's pretty great
from the league. But
you're not the first person to say that. I'll have to watch it.
But there is obviously there's clues with the crying, the pear, the letter, and then she goes to Yale. There's obviously clues that he's leaving there. There's not, through 10 years of people looking at the clues, there's not a lot of clarity to them, but that's my best guess as far as what might be going on there. But that's one, we're not going to really understand it until we understand what Denna's agenda is, and so we're going to have to wait for the third book to really understand that.
He's definitely given us reason for suspicion. He's not just going to mention pair out of season or so late in the season just for the hell of it. He's insinuating there's suspicion or there's something to be drawn from it, obviously. I kind of liked the reaction she gives, which she typically gives when she sees him. She's sitting there all somber and everything. Then she hops to her feet, runs towards him, smiling. This is kind of what we just talked about, is like, how do you show, love? She shows how much she loves him by the way she reacts the second she sees him, and she just fucking flips out. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Especially
changes her whole demeanor.
Examples. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get the great line with where he's like, I've been having a rough time lately. I hope you don't feel as I hope you don't feel as rough as you look, she said gently. Have you been getting enough sleep? I haven't, I admitted. Is it anything you'd like to talk about? I don't know if I could do anything to help, but I don't sleep well myself. I know what it's like. He says, I smiled at her, a real smile. The expression felt odd on my face, and I wondered how long I'd been scowling without knowing. You're helping just by being here. Just seeing you does wonders. And he goes, there isn't much to talk about, I said. My bad luck got tangled up with my bad decisions, and I'm paying for it. Then I gave a chuckle that hovered on the edge of being a sob. I wouldn't know anything about that sort of thing, she said, her lips making a wry twist. It's worse when it's your own stupid fault, isn't it? Which, that's one of Kvothe's biggest flaws, is, he makes some stupid decisions, and then they just cascade and send him down, these idiotic paths. This was an idiotic decision to try to break into Ambrose's room to get her ring back, and it cascades into a huge shitstorm where now him and Will and Sim, are struggling for a month where they can't hardly sleep, and it's just a big fucking shitstorm trying to solve this problem from just an absolutely stupid decision. And clearly Denna feels like, that's her life story. And so it's another situation where they parallel each other to a significant degree.
Yeah. That smile feeling odd says a lot. Like, this dude's been, it's been rough. He needs,
especially since he lost his lute. Yeah. He's not in a happy mood.
Yeah. He needs some jokes explained in his life. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Urash really fucked up his mental state with that, sent him down a bad path where now he's like, now I don't get jokes unless they're explained to me. And now he's telling me that if someone explains it, it's not even a joke.
Did you guys get the sense though, when these two start, you were the, this and that, I don't know the exact phrasing, but they start saying sweet nothings to each other. Again. And it seems like it's just terrible. And eventually she's like, Kvothe says, you're something venom in my heart, pulling venom out of my... She's like, wait a minute, this has gone too far. This is stupid. I went back to...
Yeah, he says, you're the poultice that draws the poison from my heart. She's like, I don't know about that one. Heart full of poison is an appealing thought. Yeah, I admit it.
I didn't
Sounded
didn't
better
really
before
know.
I actually said it.
I didn't really adhere to any of them. I was kind of more like, this is what Elodin was talking about. Both of these,
Yeah,
neither
Fitz
one
is
of them
more
get to
like,
anything. They're
you know,
just like saying stupid
he's more
shit.
like points, sticks his finger out, makes the other, makes a circle, and he's like, hole in stick.
Yeah, they're kind of
So
forcing
yeah,
their typical
that
game they
poetry
play.
doesn't work.
There are a couple parts I thought were pretty cool. The part where she's like, "Yeah, it's a lot worse when you did it to yourself." It always reminds me of like that fucking awful hangover. It's always so much worse when it's like, you don't have anybody to blame for this shit. It was me. I did it, or it just past drugs and alcohol sort of experimentation where you're just like, Jesus, man. I don't know, reminded me of that. Made me think of that. But
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't make bad decisions, so
yeah,
it's one of the things I have to just kind of rely on, like analyzing my friends and what the consequences that happen to them.
Well, it's the unexplainable explanation, Dan. You're just going to have to take our word for it.
Yeah, I get it. Because I'm very empathetic and
for
humble.
Something.
But yeah, I have to rely on you guys, and thankfully, you guys make a ton of mistakes, so I get to experience it.
It is funny again, though.
Well, that's why you're so successful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Learn from our mistakes.
It is funny again how here Kvothe and Denna are sort of mirroring each other, even with the awkwardness. They're both kind of struggling. She's in tears. He's struggling. It's one of those things that, like, throughout their temperament, they're very well matched, and that's kind of one of the most important things that I have found in long-term relationships is the temperament itself. Matching is extraordinarily important, which is why I think what eventually happens with the song is so upsetting when you read it. Is that all falls apart just in that moment? Outside of that, they're always like on point with each other, even when it's like awkwardness. They're awkward together. They always sort of play off each other, even when it's not. Like even in this point, they can both admit like their little back and forth isn't really working, so they just stop. Did you get my note? Yeah, I got it today, just a couple hours ago, and then just move on to like joking around with each other.
Yeah, so she ends up bringing him in to show him that she got him a loot case, and she doesn't just get him a loot case; she gets him like the baddest loot case on the planet.
Yeah, sounds like
she's not. It's not like she got it. Like this guy's like some just Joe Schmo. This guy is building a loot case in Emory where the baddest musicians on the planet perform. So this is like, this would be like getting, a guitar from the place that people go to get guitars.
Yeah, this is the
Stradivarius. This is like
cases.
a top of the echelon type of guy. She doesn't just get some random, hey, get this guy a loot case. She gets him the baddest loot case probably on the planet.
It's pretty wild to also consider when he's like, wow, this must have cost a fortune. And he's basically like, yeah, there's no way your loot costs as much as this case.
Yeah, this must have cost as much as my loot. And he's like, unless your loot is made of solid silver, no chance.
Yeah, I'm guessing this case is worth a damn sight more than that. Yeah,
best
it's
loot
dope.
Case he's built in 20 years is what he's.
Well, and it's so great too because he goes through step upon step upon step of how great it is, how much and it also compliments Denna because Denna, it seems, we don't know exactly, but he insinuates that Denna had a lot to say about how it would be designed and what it would be able to be. Well, and the fact that it's the best he's ever made, it seems like part of that would be
very personable for him with the hidden pockets and that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it's an extraordinarily thoughtful gift. I mean, it really, the fact she would sell her necklace and use it to, she sells her necklace and the earrings to Denna. and she uses it to get that kid home, Jeffrey, fucking smooth brain Jeffrey.
Yeah.
She gets
So-
him
so
out of Emery, and then she gets Kvothe, the baddest loot case on the planet. I mean,
Wait a minute.
she's
Hey, Dan.
it really hold on. It really shows like how caring a person she is. Like these are two people that are important to her, and she gives up her safety net, and she uses it for them.
So, as far as Jeffrey went, that's I kind of got the notion that's maybe what happened with her selling that stuff. But is there finite discussion of that actually happening later?
Yeah, like because Jeffrey got in debt with a Gaelet, and then Devi shows up in a handful of chapters, and she's wearing the earrings that Denna had been wearing before. So Denna obviously paid Devi off with those earrings. It's made
those
clear.
Emerald earrings.
Yeah, it's made clear.
Okay,
So yeah, so she gets Jeffrey home, and she gets Kvothe, the baddest loot case on the planet. It builds up her character. It shows where her priorities are. She's not about money. I mean, look that. I mean, that is extremely extravagant.
Yeah.
Is she potentially having the same kind of feelings for Jeffrey?
What? No, she was sending him home.
She's being sympathetic to Jeffrey. She felt bad for him.
Yeah, just a lot of money.
But
but she gives him money to go home. She doesn't, and she thinks of him like a simpleton when she talks about him. She thinks she talks about him in a he's a good dude, but he's pathetic.
Yeah, she feels bad for him.
There's no romantic.
The
plots
reveal.
between them.
The way Rothfuss reveals that the loot is it's so great because Kvothe is like, he's increasingly feeling sick to his stomach and feeling just so bad because Denna got him this badass case and he didn't have a fucking loot. And he didn't have money for a loot. And just the fact that he keeps twisting in him. This is one of those, again, another point where you get that great payoff in the first read. This time you know what's going to happen. You know when it gets revealed, but yeah, it's just so great that it keeps just sort of twisting and turning, and then bro brings out the case and it's like, oh shit, and then he breaks down.
Yeah, bro made him cry.
So I was surprised at how hard Denna took. Like,
I love it. It says so much.
It's overwhelmed, and I know she was already going through something having to do with the letter, but she went right back into it and was like extremely self-conscious and self-deprecating. I didn't really understand.
It shows her insecurities. I mean, she's very
huge.
similar to Kvothe in like how insecure. I mean, she's got some major fucking self-esteem issues. And
it's so revealing.
They're on display here. She has got some major self-esteem issues.
It was surprising how much.
I mean, granted, it was a stupid thing to do. I mean,
it's a big risk. Yeah.
She not only did she got him a case like that the insides could be moved to fit any loot case. She didn't need his loot case. Like it didn't even make sense. Like, why'd you take it?
Yeah, she could have just had it designed. It's already designed for it. Then reveal it.
It's designed to be molded to any loot case.
No. What I'm saying is,
so it's like, what are you doing, girl?
Well, what I was going to also say is have it built, then have him bring it, and then put it in, and then let him do the finishing touches. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, damn. But it works for us. It gives us that great reveal.
It shows how much she cares about Kvothe. I mean, she gets him this thoughtful gift and just crumbles when she thinks that she did it in a wrong way.
Well, this is so big in terms of building out Denna. This is like as big as when he stalks her and we see her with the girl, but it's like God, I'm so stupid. I never think. I always do this. I ruin everything. Like, why am I such an idiot? Why can't I just do one thing right in my whole life? This chapter, like this part in itself, if someone reads the 2 books and says Denna's not realistic, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you talking? Like, the idea that she's not realistic, this makes her extraordinarily realistic. She's got a broken past. She has a past. We don't know a lot about it. We don't know the actual details about it. But this is a rounded character, man. The fact that she tries to do these things, and she has all these capabilities, you know, and I guess this would be the one.
I mean, she's got the range of emotion. She's got talent. She's got skills. She's got charisma.
She's got reasons.
She's
to
also
have
very
high self-esteem.
insecure. She's got kindness. She'll
And
be
yet she's a people
gangster.
pleaser.
Like she runs the gambit of human emotions. Like, she's not a one note character. Like, I don't know, like, if you're looking for, unless you're just looking at Denna and you're like, well, she needs to be Kvothe's love interest. Like, oh, I mean, okay, there are millions of stories like that, but this is different. This is not telling the love story of Kvothe and Denna. It is a tragedy. It's more, if it's closer to Romeo and Juliet than like a happily ever after type of thing.
Well, we'll see, Dan. Now, listen, I still hold out a lot of hope for the way this story's going to turn out. And we've been talking about how Rothfuss is going to like to throw a twist in here or there. If you think this thing may be going,
we know where it ends.
Along the lines
like,
of a tragedy.
I mean, we're not going to get to like the end of book 3. Like, he finishes telling his story in the first 300 pages, and then the next 600 pages is at the bar.
You know what's going to be great?
He goes and saves the world, and
what's going to be
finds
great?
Denna, and they're fucking
what's going to be
town on each other.
What's going to be so great is into the Waystone Inn. In walks Simon, Will, and Ambrose, and they got their tips all highlighted. Yeah. And they throw to Kvothe his lute and they give a nod, and then they just start fucking blasting, some really K-pop shit.
He one hands the lute, and then he pulls the fucking pick, not the pick, but the fucking little bow thing that you rub across the strings.
Yeah, like a violin.
Whatever you call that. He pulls that out of his back pocket. He one hands catches the lute out of the air, and then just pulls that out. He's had that the whole time in his back pocket. Just starts fucking.
I love some real cheesy, super super cheesy. I knew you guys would be back. It just goes right back into the boys are back.
That's when you bust out the thunder.
Kelvin walks in, does the splits and starts headbanging.
Yeah, and it just ends with like on a happy ending like that. Like, and everybody's like, "Hold on."
Did you guys
like,
say
I don't get like what happened. Like what happened with the world? Like, there was a civil war going on. Yeah, but they're about to go on a world tour.
We're just rocking out. They just end it with
Wait,
I thought there was a whole war. Like, rock and roll.
Yeah, like Bob Marley shit. Like, Kvothe's going to unify the whole country, the whole dang continent.
That's all it took, man.
Then Denna's going to go up there.
Grab you ready to rock? We're about to go rock this world.
Denna's gonna come out of the crowd.
What a legendary ending that would be.
Harp on her back.
It ends with like his bad decision,
side to side.
And he's just like, and that's my story, and that's why I'm sad. And then and then Ambrose kicks in the door, like, "Hey, turn that frown upside down." Throws him the lute.
I love it, man. That's so great. And they just break into a rock opera. Are you ready?
This is why I could.
And they just blast.
This is why I could never be an author, because I would be so tempted to fucking do shit like this, like just like to have the weirdest ending ever. Like, what? Like, why would you do that? You had 2 legendary books, and then you end it like with these guys doing like a rock and roll tour.
You know what that was like? That was like, what's that Quentin Tarantino movie that he did with someone else where all of a sudden everybody turned into vampires? It It was a kidnapping story.
Oh,
and then
Dusk and Dawn. Or
Dusk to
Before
Dawn, yeah.
Rodriguez.
It's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
But
I was
it's
just
like came out of
Cheech
left
is pretty
field.
funny in that.
We talk about crazy endings. That again, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The cops show up and make them stop.
There's another one, Tim, but that was actually
like,
good.
hey, cut it out! Everybody, cut it out! And they just start pushing. They're knights. Yeah. They just start pushing them around, and they just let themselves get pushed around. It's so funny.
Yeah, and arrested.
And it's like that's
how
the end.
That's how you end a story. I mean, it's shit like that. Like growing up with that movie, and Blazing Saddles and
There's another one. They just
where now like all I want to
tube.
do is like come up with the most ridiculous movie endings ever.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great way. Yeah, that'd be a great way to sum it up. Just God, just troll your audience completely.
So now I think Rothfuss is going to try harder than that, and not just blow up.
I'm telling you, when he hears that line, he's like, "Yeah, Ambrose coming in, kicking in the door, turn that frown upside down." He's like, "Yeah, that's a great line,
dude.
There's nothing I could do that's better than that."
Nice line.
I can't imagine that he won't, if he hasn't already, make Kilvin into the hot yoga, teacher who's doing splits on top of chairs and shit. Like, how do you not do that? It's just so great. It's so great for the character, man. He's all sweating.
Kilvin's like the public enemy. He's like the dude with the clock.
Flavor
Flav, yeah. He's like Flavor Flav, except for he's like doing hot yoga, and as he's going around hyping everybody up.
Oh yeah,
like fucking splits.
He's got like sympathy clocks. Is that his thing? So instead of a lamp,
he's rocking.
He
that's how it ends with him. Like his ending is he's wearing his ever burning lamp across his chest.
Yeah, boy. Time for some sympathy.
I got that ever burning lamp, boys.
I like it. This is the way it has to go.
Everybody would like this. Everybody would like this. This is how it should end. Clearly, nailed it again.
Launching into a rock opera / I like Kilvin being Flava Flav, so like mix in a little rap rock opera. Yeah, okay.
Rap opera.
Just really so. I mean,
opera.
if you think about it, and it just makes sense because Kvothe is just so down in the dumps that's how you pull him out. Just a total 1988. Like, hey buddy, you ready to rock? Like, okay. He just jumps on the bar.
God.
Starts riffing.
It's just like a Bollywood ending, except for Americanized Bollywood ending.
He's wearing like big high top. Like the whole thing just got to be super cheesed out. Yeah. And then they all just start. Yeah, just Bollywood. Yeah, I love it.
Bollywood meets American. What's that with Tim Curry, that where he's like dressed
Rocky
up in
Horror
drag.
Picture Show?
Yeah. Bollywood meets that.
I've never even seen the whole thing, but yeah, I was kind of feeling that vibe is in there. It's the type of thing that I don't know if it's
stuff.
Still
well, we
exists.
got an ending to the book now, so that's solid work in this episode, no matter what.
I mean, really, the truth is Rothfuss has so much to work with just from this one podcast.
Yeah,
not to mention all of our other podcasts.
Yeah, we got the ending to the series, and it's a phenomenal ending. So you're welcome, Rothfuss.
Well, it wasn't easy. It took a while to get here, but yeah, now he can just
he's been working on it for a long time, and we've been working on it for a long time. But I think we fucking nailed it.
And also, you're welcome to all the people who bitch about the third book not coming out, because at this time you know what's going to happen. You don't even need to have it.
Yeah. He was just listening to this podcast. Yeah, if you got someone crying like a little baby, like Kvothe, crying all the time, send them our way. We tell you exactly how it ends. Nailed it. But
you're welcome. Basically, is what it comes
you're
down
welcome. Yes, but that is all I have on that chapter.
I mean, the only other things that I was going to kind of mention that I thought were pretty great is when he realizes Denna cares for him. It's like it represent. He uses verbiage of like it's nourishment, like it's like a swallow of hot or warm wine on a cold day, some shit like that. And then like when he laughs, it's like literally felt as it's the best. Like it was like getting 3 days of sleep. 3 solid days of sleep, just that one laugh. It's like, God damn, this dude, he really does he needs Ambrose coming in there and rocking it out, man. He really needs that studio time to just loosen up, man. Loosen the joints.
You know what would happen, though? Ambrose would come in there and throw him that lute like his old buddy, and he'd be like, hey, it doesn't float right. It floats oblong and wobbly. Barely catching it. That's what happened the first time.
Oh, because that happened then.
But they were enemies then. Now they're best buddies. I mean, that's obviously that's
what he does is you spiral it. You do it like a football. You got to hold the neck and the bottom, the bowl, and then you just boom. And then Kvothe just
figure out how to throw
right
it
out of the air.
That's part of their arc. That is that's part of their arc is that the first time he threw him the loot case, Kvothe called the wind and got real angry because he broke it because Ambrose was being a dick. But now that they're friends, they throw it and it goes right to him and he catches it, and that's like that's closing that circle.
Yeah,
there was one other thing about this chapter that I wanted to mention, and that's does it seem to you guys like possibly that they're having their ups and downs at different points, Denna and Kvothe, but also very obviously Kvothe kind of blows off to some, I don't know if I want to say blows off, but he quickly forgets that Denna's having a real issue right now, and even though she just gave Kvothe a splendid gift, like she's still really fucked up, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna take you out, and we're gonna have the best time ever, and she's like,
yeah, but that's what she asked. She asked that out of him. She's like, I don't want to talk about this. Help me.
I know, but it just seems like I get that, but it seems like
I mean,
I
could tell you,
high,
like, just like if I was like, I'm going through shit, but I don't want to talk about it, and then you were like prying, I'd be like, well, now I don't want to fucking hang out with you. I just told you I didn't want to talk about it.
Yes.
No, but I don't mean that. I just mean that. I mean that. Kvothe is on a real high and kind of disregards.
He's in the doldrums. They're both in the doldrums. He's I was gonna say, lost his loot. He thinks his loot is gone.
They're both going through painful times at the same time, and then they both are like, "Hey, can you just distract me from this?" And then they both want the same thing. They both just want to be distracted. They want to share an afternoon where he's going to romance her with playing. A lot of Hall & Oates, I would imagine. Maybe some Walk on Sunshine. Which I know is not Hall & Oates.
But I'm going to disagree with you because Kvothe is coming out of his funk. Seems like she's just got the news that's sending her into a funk.
He wasn't coming out at that point, though. Like when he comes across her, he does not have his loot. Yeah, but they've already established, let's fucking move on. Let's try to cheer each other up. Like, what's he supposed to do at that point? Like, no. I want to know.
You're having a bad day.
That's not my point.
Let me just shit in this loot case.
That's not my point. My point is, Kvothe is like Kvothe really sells it towards the end of this chapter that he's really on cloud 9, and we all know that Denna is not. Whatever has happened, she's like, look, I don't want to talk about it. And just please, you're a bright spot in my day. I don't think that she's carrying on in her high point like he is. He's just coming out of a lot of funk of being tortured and whatnot. No rest. Sounds like she may be getting ready to go into that as he's coming out of it. I don't know. I just, again, yin and yang
and she comes out of it shortly after she's all jazzed up about she's got a great opportunity, so she comes out of it shortly after that too.
She's also all depressed because she thinks she made Kvothe's life worse by taking the lute, and he wants to make her feel better for that as well.
I think it's compounded by whatever's in that letter. I mean, that's it's throwing shit on top of shit.
Yeah,
which is shit.
Wait, shit on top of shit is shit?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
One other aspect I wanted to mention that I almost forgot is that she specifically requested brass instead of expressly asked for steel instead of brass. I don't know what that means, but brass has copper in it, and there could be something there. I think the fact that it's mentioned, it stands out that it's mentioned specifically that she specifically asked for it to not have brass in it. So I think that's a clue. It's just there's nothing I've seen anybody guess or anything in the books that could put it together. But I do want to point it out because I do think it's going to be a clue that once we read book 3, we'll understand why she asked for brass or asked for it not to be brass.
And they also mentioned glance steel instead of Ramsden.
Yeah, because Ramsden is brittle. And
Strong,
again, that paints to his alar is like
brittle?
A blade of Ramsden steel.
How can something be strong but brittle? I didn't understand that.
I think they meant like peanut brittle, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like you bite that shit. Shit's
like the
strong,
taste is strong, but it's
cracks.
brittle. I get it now.
Yeah, it's fractious. That's the word.
But that is all for me.
Yeah.
Okay, then, chapter 31 is titled The Crucible. In this chapter, Kvothe visits Sim, who shows off his new boots and his skills in alchemy. Sim gives Kvothe some sort of salve that enables him to touch hot surfaces, then demonstrates its volatility. Chapter 32 is titled Blood and Ash. Kvothe meets his 5 privy friends in the forest to test out his newly crafted gram. To represent Kvothe, they cram blood and ash and hair into a wax mammoth, stab the shit out of it, and throw it in the fire while Kvothe stands watching, unscathed and relieved. Before leaving, Sim spills the beans about Kvothe dealing with Demon Debbie. Guys?
Yeah, so you get another one where they bring up like this chemical that's going to be able to protect his hands from fire, but it doesn't tell you what it's going to be used for. He really does this like a heist movie. I mean, it's like a heist movie inside this book where, you have all the, like it talks about him going to the Golden Pony, it talks about this, like there's all these preparations for it, but you don't know like how they're going to come into play. And then you see all the pieces get put together once they actually break into Ambrose's room.
Yeah, it's the way he plays it out, the way he builds it up is pretty great. There are a couple parts that I thought were interesting. He starts the chapter with my lute back in my hands. The rest of my life slid easily back into balance. Work in the fishery was easier. Classes breezed by. A load didn't even seem to make more sense. So 2 things. I think this speaks more towards him being an heir to Ilion. I think it literally does. Like his music, yes, it's like his meditative state and stuff, but I think it literally is part of what makes him function to the highest degree that he can, which obviously we already know that. But also, when he has his music, Mary Sue. I know you love it. That's when he is.
Very
is that
Mary
a song?
Sue when he's...
No, I'm saying he's a Mary Sue when he has his music. When he doesn't have his music, not so much.
No,
it doesn't work like that. I'm trying to make it work.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing.
Give this guy some credit.
Hold on.
Yeah, he falls apart.
You said no,
when he
and
doesn't
then you're like,
have it,
no,
he's
I'm
not a
agreeing
Mary
with
Sue,
you.
but when he has it, 100%.
I had
I like too though, like the Sims finally, he's the man. in this situation where he's like getting to like, you need to shut up and listen. This is alchemy. You know nothing about alchemy. And like he gets to kind of fucking pump his chest out a bit and like now you're in my fucking world.
He really dresses him down.
Yeah, and
he makes him admit it repeatedly.
Yeah.
It's his one opportunity to shine. He's like, now I'm finally the master in something. Like, you're not better than me at this. And not only are you not better than me at this, you're not even close to on my fucking level.
You know why?
Well,
I think he takes it there because of the boots. He didn't like the wisecrack about his boots.
Yeah.
He wanted all this. Which, by the way, I didn't really get the joke.
Look at my boots.
Yeah, he's like, hey,
what was the joke?
Got some new boots. He lifts up a foot, and Kvothe goes, they're nice. Are those hobnails? And those, and then Kvothe laughs. I don't know. Am I supposed to get something out of hobnail?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought hobnail was a brand, like he was wearing Uggs.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I really thought that.
Well, it's not capitalized.
Like hobnails. Ooh, sounds fancy.
Those are what is Botticelli's? Are those Botticelli's? Like, fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Don't fucking talk about my shoes.
But
it's always
fellow
a
likes him.
Weird point like that. Just that mention of the shoes there. It's like, what? Okay.
Yeah, I felt
really
like
impressed about his shoes.
They're new.
Well, I guess with Kvothe, it's probably like rubbing it in his fucking face. Like, hey, look, I got fucking brand new shoes. Look at your scrub ass shoes. Well, you've been wearing those.
Do you even have 2 shirts? Jerk.
Yeah.
Seems out of character for Sim to be a dick like that.
Sim is just fucking rubbing shit in his face this whole fucking chapter.
Yeah, he's getting his revenge for some reason. Yeah, what's his deal?
All right, he's been outshined, and now he finally gets to fucking pump that chest out. He gets to be Mr. Man this fucking chapter.
Well, it just so happens that when he gets to be Mr. Man, he's like, "Did you see my new shoes?"
Yeah, yeah. I like too when he tells him like, don't get it immersed in water, and Kvothe's like, oh yeah, how much did Will pay, how much did Will bet you that I would swallow all this down? And he's like, all right, go give me a pot of water, and gets him the water, sets it on fire, and he's like, yeah. He's like, say it, bitch.
Say it again.
Yeah, he does.
I know nothing about alchemy.
It is rather crazy, though. The idea that this solution you mix with water, and I mean that's wild. But yeah, that's the alchemy part of it. That at least Rothfuss
alchemy,
creates.
man. Unfortunately, Kvothe knows nothing about it, so we know virtually nothing about it.
Yeah, neither do we.
Actually, it does sound a lot like chemistry. He's like, it's nothing like chemistry. It sounds a lot like chemistry. I'm just saying.
Well, magical chemistry.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
I didn't see anything magic about it.
Yeah, but you don't understand it. That's kind of the point.
Like you just put some shit on your hands, and it doesn't. You're impervious to fire, but then if you stick it underwater, it fucking catches on fire, and then like it just breaks down. Like it's magic. It's magic shit.
I know you hate hearing about other people's careers, but when I use my torches to weld pipe together, I use this cream that absorbs heat and doesn't allow heat to transfer to other stuff.
And if you stick that cream in water, does it catch on fire?
There's some kind of salt that is explosive when you mix it with water. There's a few things that are explosive when they mix with water. There's some chemical reaction that makes them volatile. Yeah, it sounds like chemistry.
Okay, all right, yeah, but here's the thing: like the making of these is also a magical, like when Ari makes that candle, it's not just like combining ingredients. That's the difference. In chemistry, it's combining ingredients. It's like baking. This is not like baking. It takes magic.
Not only that, when you piss on it, it turns into candy. So remember
that I like.
Yeah.
That's everything.
Yeah.
That's most things in my world anyway. There's specific genres that cater to that.
Yes. And Dan's favorite artist, R. Kelly, big in that world.
Yeah.
Big representation in that world.
Yeah. Biggest R&B singer in the wet work world.
Dude, I don't know if that's a term or you just coined it, but that's fantastic. Well done.
Wet
work?
Wet work?
That's a term.
Oh, is it? Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Wet.
It's great that Dan knew it.
Yeah. It's in a lot of movies. It's a funny term.
Well, I believe it's in a lot of movies. I just don't watch those. So apparently Dan's big into that work.
Yeah.
I actually try to stay away from those type
there
of
are
movies,
guys
but...
like there are movies where like a guy like looks in the classified for he's looking for a hitman and he sees wet work and he hires the guy and the guy shows up and it's a guy that's there to piss on you and he thinks that the guy's there to be an assassin. So it's usually in situations like that.
And they have fun together. Yeah, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Well, now that you're here, I already paid."
And they definitely play "It's Raining Men" at that point.
Yeah. It's rain and piss. Hallelujah! It's rain and piss. But yeah, short chapter. That's all I got on that one. And then we get into he's walking to the campsite, that they got carved out, and he's like, everyone was already there. Mola and Fela shared a log bench. Willem hunkered down on a stone. Sim sat cross-legged on the ground, poking at the fire with a stick, which fits all their personalities. That Sim would be the one fucking just jabbing at a fucking fire like a little kid.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's what I like so much about this little, this whole thing is there's this entire plan set up and, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. There's a lot of people involved. And he even goes as far, it cracked me up when I read it. I'm looking for it. Where he basically is like, yeah, I like to be prepared. I like to think things through. It's like, yeah, you didn't the first time, Jack. Fuck. Like, he's in this position because of what he did the first time. Yeah, it kind of cracks me up.
Yeah, and we also get how long this has been going on. So almost 2 whole spans. So around 20 days. So like half a month is in their world, like half.
Yeah, that they've been. Yeah, he's been making this walk and everything. Yeah. It really. I'm trying to remember because of how we've been doing this. It seems like to a great degree, suddenly he has a lot of people that give a shit about him. Fela obviously feels like she owes him, and his friends have been having his back forever. But getting Mola in the mix and all this, it does show that like he does have he's been doing some networking, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a core group. That's these guys, and plus, and Debbie comes back into it. There's a few people that kind of are his best friends, or at least the people who are. Who understand or know the things that he's trying for and doing, and help him do these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Sim comes across as super over theatrical to me, as a guy that's like, oh, he touches the thing and freaks out. Like I picture like if you had a hand buzzer, the little stupid joke, he would just like freak the fuck out. like runs across the room like, "Oh my
Jeez.
god!"
Kvothe, what's hilarious when Kvothe is playing like the stupid, over important noble kid to Caudicus,
Mm-hmm.
and then he touches his gilder and he pulls his hand back like, it bit me. It's like he's almost mocking the shit out of Sim here.
Yeah.
But this is the point where you learn that a gilder is also a gram. Like that, it protects the where it's not just a sign that you've gone through the university. It's also a protective tool.
So I also thought that Mola really threw caution to the wind and throwing the Mamet in the fire like all of a sudden after just having stabbed it a few times, having not even tried any fire or anything. She's like, throw it in there.
Yeah, she's ballsy. She's not fucking around.
I love the idea of like taking it a little further because like she just suddenly just throws it in there after stabbing a bunch of times. But I love the idea of like she farts on it, bites the head off, like just goes full savage.
Yeah,
you smell that?
She doesn't seem she seems a lot like Vachette. She probably would not be a big fan of Kvothe's magic hands after Flurrian. Like, all right, dude, let's fucking get down to business. Yeah. What are you doing?
What if she like went behind the tree and she's like, Kvothe, can you guess where you are now?
What's that smell? That's good.
But also you get the when Fela's like, that won't work. Blood won't mix with wax. It'll just beat up and squish out. You get the Fela. I love the university. Educated women are so much more attractive. You get the little fucking douchey line from Mola is like, "Oh, I've never met a intelligent man." It's like lamest joke in the book. I was like, that is like the lowest common denominator joke, where it's one of those jokes where you see someone say something like on social media, they'll make a comment and you're like, you see the obvious joke, and then you click on the reply and you see the obvious joke told by like 57 people. Yeah. And it's like, Jesus, guys, you couldn't resist. Yeah, it's such an obvious joke. You just don't even say it unless you're being ironic.
Yes. In which case you say it and then laugh ridiculously loudly at your own joke.
Yeah.
As if it was totally original.
You got to make it clear that you're not being serious. Like thought you just dropped fucking a dime on the joke. Like you just dropped the lamest joke ever.
Like you're going around for high fives.
Yeah.
You see what I did? You see what I did?
You see? Like, because he said he likes attractive women, but I said that I've never met an intelligent man. You see what I did? You get it? You get it? Like, I'm saying all men are stupid. You get it? High five.
See how I did that?
Would have been funny.
Now I get it, Dan.
That's
now
funny.
It's way funnier.
Yeah.
Now it's funny.
To the credit
that's an actual time where, like, if she explained the joke, that would have been funny.
Yes. I will say, to the credit of the crowd, no one said a fucking word. No. He just went, got some ash from the pit. They just ignored her altogether.
Yeah, no one, not like, and we all laughed and laughed and laughed. It was a big old belly laugh. I laughed for 20 minutes straight. Ha ha ha. What a great joke, Mola.
We all patted Mola on the back, picked her up, walked her around like this was Rudy.
Mola told the funniest joke. Oh, man.
So
and I also love, though, before Mola throws his shit in the fire, I do love that when Sim goes to stab him and Kvothe's like, I doubled over, shrieking and clutching my leg, fell aghast. Willem leaped to his feet. Sim went wide-eyed with panic, holding the doll, and Penn stiff-armed away from each other. He looked around wildly at everyone. I straightened up, brushing at my shirt, just practicing. I said, "Was the scream too girly?" It's so fucking great.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
That's a fucking Seinfeld moment. Acting.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? Acting. Yeah, I love it.
So fucking great.
I did want to point out there was a point where Willem decides to like state or quote, this flesh will burn to ash, all things return. Isn't that what it says in your holy book? Is that Telu?
Tailoring, right?
I would assume, yeah. I think that's what it's referring to as Telu.
What's his face that got to the wheel? I can't remember. I know
Incanus.
Incanus, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I don't know, that's what came to mind, but I wasn't really sure, so I thought I'd ask.
And apparently Simon's not, he's not religious, at least not of that religion.
Yeah.
It's not my book. But and then so Mola fucking fully tested out, and and so the gram works, and so they got that problem solved, and then they bring up the fact that they add some limitations to the gram. It's not a cure all. He's like, if someone's got a forge fire, you can throw enough shit at it to even overpower a gram. So it's not a cure all. It'll help, but it doesn't completely solve the problem. So they still have to go through with the heist to fully solve this problem.
It's pretty cool also to consider that like you're wearing this thing and you can feel it working.
Yeah.
So when someone's trying to attack you. That's pretty wild. Oh yeah, and then Sim blows up. Hey man, I forgot how much it happens. He blows up Kvothe's spot. Hey man,
always, constantly.
Well, you know what?
He's a running stream of being naive and fucking spilling the beans,
and it's so unnecessary.
It works out in his favor at this point, but
it does.
But regardless, it's ridiculous that he even brings it up.
Yeah, it's so.
Might even be enough to keep Davey off your back too. You dumbass. You stupid idiot.
I like this made me think of something too. I like how so he has to explain it to Mola because Mola's pushing, and she's like, yeah, you really go out of your way to make life exciting, don't you? And he's like, I already admitted it was a mistake, which he didn't really. He just explained what happened. But I already admitted it was a mistake. What else do you want from me? It kind of reminded me, there's a great moment. And I don't know if you remember Khabib McGregor when they fought, and Khabib's old crew jumped into the ring after the fight.
Yeah.
And after the fight, they ask him about it, and he's like, why are we still talking about this? It's like, dude, this literally just happened. Just happened. And this is a big deal that your whole crew jumped in the ring. But I love that demeanor, that approach of just like, why are we even talking about this?
You remember Debbie and how she almost just killed you?
That was like 30 seconds ago. Move on.
Yeah. Is this all we're going to talk about? This is all we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just leave. But it reminded me of that, where he's just like, look, are we going to keep talking about this? Like, dude, I just found this out. Yeah, it's pretty
Didn't
funny.
he jump out of the ring? Didn't he jump up on the side of the octagon? And then
he jumped out. He jumped out and they jumped in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's what happened. Yeah,
he went and attacked McGregor's crew, and then his crew attacked McGregor. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
But yeah, then and then he lays on, how desperate his situation is here. Kvothe does, when he's, like, I didn't tell them that, basically, even if I could pay Devi off, there's no way I could pay her off plus get tuition. So I'm fucked. Ambrose won. Like, he's like, no matter what, Ambrose won either way. Even if I stop him here, I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. I can't pay her plus come up with enough money for tuition. So I'm done.
Yeah, that's a rough one. It's kind of funny.
I don't really remember what happens, but
it's kind of interesting.
I don't remember what ends up happening, but all right, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say
they make amends.
It's
Him
always
and Debbie make amends and go back to their original deal.
It's always interesting to me that these moments where he's kind of having to admit publicly that he's broke. Because that's a big sore spot with him. Except for he doesn't admit he's broke. He doesn't.
Other than they know he's in debt, but he doesn't admit, how desperate his situation is. Specifically what he's saying is like, I didn't tell him how bad it was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's thinking it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And he just falls back on, well, it's just the way the world works.
And you know what, Dan? I read ahead. He picks Ambrose's pocket. I don't remember if I don't know. I didn't read past that. I don't know if he pays Debbie if they restructured their deal or whatever. But
no, they just go back to their original deal where all he's got to do is pay the interest.
Yeah, if he can't pay off the full amount.
Yeah.
And it carries on.
Yeah, is a bad enough situation for him, but it's not, as bad as having to pay off like the full, I think it's like 9 talents that he would owe her.
Okay. 9. Because I think if I remember right, he nabbed 7 talents off of.
Plus, like it ends up not mattering. I mean, because he doesn't get to go through admissions again after this. He has to leave fucking town.
Oh,
isn't this when everyone tells him, dude?
Is this where he takes his break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because after this, Ambrose gets the Iron Law called on him, and then they're like, "All right, dude, you gotta fucking take a break for a while."
Which he's reluctant to listen to, but enough people tell him where it's like, dude, no, you have to. And then he gets his opportunity with the mayor, and I remember that was pretty shocking when it happened. Where you're like, wait, what? What are we doing here? We're leaving? I don't want to leave. Like, this place is dope. What are we leaving for? No more hot yoga? Like, what's going on, man?
Yeah. I mean, Kilvin didn't even get to show him. He didn't even get to show him Downward Dog.
Yeah.
And he's got the best Downward Dog.
Man.
But,
So how quick is that coming up, Dan?
So next week we will cover the heist, and then we'll get the first chapter we'll cover is the heist, and then we'll get the Moth and Farm, the pottery drawing, and we might get to the story about Faye Reenial with Skiop, which obviously we've talked about a bunch, but we're either going to get to that in this next episode or the one after that. But those are the big 3 things that are coming up, and then from there, obviously we'll eventually get to where he makes peace with Devi and gets the Iron Law called against him, and then has to leave the university. So we're coming up, we're getting close to the end of his time, at the university for quite a while in this book.
And the world broadens in a big, big way.
Yeah.
And we get some new.
I love the rest of the world. So
it's great.
I love, all the shit in this book. I think this book is better than Name of the Wind, even though I love Name of the Wind. But people who really love the university setting tend to not like getting thrown out of it. It's like, it's a fish out of water experience. But I don't feel that, because I like those parts of the world and the different social norms, the different principles, the different, it's just different, and it broadens the scope of the world so much that it just makes the story more interesting to me.
Well, and there are new challenges for Kvothe, and he's put into new situations that he's got to deal with. It's great, man. I think it's fantastic.
Initially, I
get the story about the guy's ass falling off, like legendary shit.
Yeah, man.
So initially, I thought that I wanted Kvothe to ride with the Rue forever, and I was really disappointed when everybody got killed. But then he went to Tarbean, and everything was a lot more exciting and promising, and I wish that he was still in Tarbean personally, and that he never moved away from there. But
everybody looks fondly at his time in Tarbean. Like, that's clearly the time where everybody's like, I wish he just stayed there. He had it so good. He had all of those pennies stacked up in his secret spot, the hiding spot on the roof by the chimneys that nobody else has found, and why they're all sleeping, freezing their ass off, and he's got that sweet ass fucking spot on the chimney with his fucking 3 pennies stacked up. Like, life was good.
And
he had it going
his
on.
View of the alley where he could watch kids get raped.
Yeah. Well, what is not to like
great
about
entertainment? Well, before or after Trappist, because once he finds Trappist, things very much change.
that? Yeah, Trappist really. That's
it
the
got way too
downside
easy
of
after that.
Tarbean. Trappist sucks. Everybody hates him.
Jeez. The selfless
What
man
a
that saves little
fucking
kids and feeds them,
poor
and
sport.
treats them.
He's like coming in like these kids, like they got these interesting battles they got to fight to survive, and then he comes in like, oh, here's some water, here's some bread. Oh, you need some medicine?
These
I'll
kids,
give you medicine.
These
I'll treat
kids
you.
are
Like,
these kids are.
dude, get out of here! You
No.
freaking
These
wet
kids are
blanket.
going through the school of the hard knocks. Let me
You're
give
way
you
off.
some bread and water.
You're way
and
off
shoes.
base. You're way off base. He just goes, what? Hush, hush.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Hush.
Yeah, he's basically doing the shh, 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 shh. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
Shut it. What?
Well, it's understandable because everything else in that chapter is
Yeah. Hey, shut the fuck up, dude. I can't listen to this anymore. Like 24/7?
No wonder he's losing it, man.
It's like everybody thinks like, he's such a sweetheart and so patient, but in reality he's just underneath, he's just boiling. He's just like
constantly on the urge.
Fucker.
He's a fucking crackpot, dude.
Just beating. He's constantly on the edge of beating the shit out of these kids. And he's got them in a dungeon.
Kid. It's like, oh, you want another fucking story? Another fucking story? Really? Like, it's not enough that I gotta fucking go and get you water and get you food while I got no shoes? Do you know how bad my feet feel? You don't think I want to lay in bed and go, wah, wah, wah?
But instead, all you hear is, hush, hush,
Yeah.
hush, hush, hush,
Yeah.
hush, hush, hush.
Yeah, Adam Sandler should definitely
Yes.
play him with the hush hush what.
Absolutely, 100%, dude. That's the best casting idea you've had thus far. Absolutely, I love it.
Yeah, make it happen, Patty. Don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, well, just give him books. He'll be into it.
What's crazy is Adam Sandler is way older than Trappist.
Is he?
Yeah.
Adam Sandler doesn't really show his age much, though. You know,
No.
kind of one of those perpetual.
But and when you read Trappist, you think of like a fucking 75-year-old man. You don't think of like a 40-year-old. But that's what he is.
Yeah, and I think they should just let him riff. Let him play Trappist for what he wants to play him as. Bring back the old hits.
Like you get like Adam Sandler and Billy Madison doing like his voices and stuff.
Oh, sorry. Are you on bread?
Like the goat.
He called the shit,
man. Rothfuss, just dude, hit me up. I got all kinds of ideas. Fucking, this would be the fucking #1 movie of all time.
I would be a big fan of those scenes. Just to remember those albums from back in the day. They're fantastic.
Yeah. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Oh, just play with your cock and ball.
That should definitely be in the show. Like when Kvothe goes running out of the basement, Scarpa yells out, "They're all gonna laugh at you." It's fucking Adam Sandler. Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
Or when he comes down for the first time, he walks into
if
a
you
couple
haven't
people.
If you haven't listened to Adam Sandler's comedy tapes, those were some good fun. Especially if you're a younger kid. Like, oh man, that's hours of laughing.
That you're all if he does they're all gonna laugh at you. That would be such great inside baseball for everybody like our age. Oh my god, that'd be so great. Oh, that'd be so. It's just comic relief in a part that's not really supposed to have comic relief, but
and like no explanation why he's yelling. They're all gonna laugh at you. So everybody's like, "What? Why are they gonna laugh at him? I don't get that point."
It's literally just for the inside baseball comic relief of Adam Sandler fans.
Oh man. That'd be
I love
hilarious. I would die. I would lose my shit if that happened.
You want Trappist to show you how to suck guy's cock? Trappist can show you how.
Play with your cock and balls.
Yeah,
That's what it is. That's what you're talking about.
Play with your cock and balls.
Jesus. Oh, man.
All right. Well, yeah. I think that pretty much fucking wraps up another fucking stellar episode.
Yeah.
Put it in the books, boys.
Put it in the biblioteca.
Yeah. What Tim said.
I'm still thinking of different tracks on that. There's when he's the Spanish teacher getting the shit kicked out of him. There's just all these. He has a bunch of like different people at your high school getting the shit kicked out of him. One's a Spanish teacher. He's, bibliotheque.
Yeah, it's 100% an album for high school kids.
Yes,
it's
100%.
It wouldn't if you're you're 40 years old, you're probably gonna listen to it and be like, I don't know what the fuck were they laughing at. I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
like, kind of have to
you gotta be like
what
16
to
to really
then.
appreciate Adam Sandler's first fucking stand-up albums.
Unless you're from Westchester. Welcome to Westchester. $1.25, please. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Don't make. I'll beat the shit out of you.
But all right, well, go listen to Adam Sandler and listen about your cock and balls.
Yeah. Fuck me in the goat ass.
Yeah. Is that where that came from?
Yeah, that's what it's from.
Oh my god, man! Like
I've said that
that
for
was
years.
that was literally well over a decade after that. Like, fuck me in the goat ass. And I had no idea where that came from. I had forgotten the origin of fuck me in the goat ass.
That's how important.
great.
You're a good goat. You're a good goat. You put up with a lot of the old man.
Shit. All right. On that note, fucking have a good week. We'll see you back next week. Peace out.
All right, guys.
Right on.
Later.
Yeah.